Chapter 553. As soon as Yun Jian finished arranging her plan, Officer Bao led the police to surround the dojo again. Officer Bao had some influence in F province. As for Coach Su, he was very cooperative with Yun Jian's plan. He even promised Yun Jian that he would not step out of the dojo for the next few days in order to make the plan look flawless. Yun Jian also had a good impression of Coach Su. Although Coach Su and Yu Luo were uncle and niece, Coach Su's personality was completely different from Yu Luo's. Coach Su was a very righteous person, which was a stark contrast to Yu Luo's selfish personality. Officer Go, let's split up now. You go back to the Zhe province army and apply for a transfer of soldiers from the army. We'll meet at Xiaowan Pier in Country S. Yun Jian looked at Gu Junjian and said. Xiaowan Pier in Country S was the only way to get to the headquarters of the Inferno Ring. Usually, the headquarters of an assassin or secret agent organization were built on an island in the sea, and the hiding place was very secretive. Yun Jian had the ability to know about this. Don't forget, her Wuxia mercenaries intelligence team was the best in the world. Yun Jian could get the news directly from the intelligence team about any big or small international news. The headquarters of the Inferno Ring had been there for so many years. Her Wuxia mercenaries intelligence team had already figured out the coordinates of the headquarters of the Inferno Ring. Yun Jian even knew the exact location of the headquarters of the Inferno Ring, and how many square meters it was. Okay. Gu Junjian looked at Yun Jian suspiciously, but finally nodded in agreement. But after thinking for a while, Gu Junjian still asked Yun Jian, Yun Jian, Xiaowan Pier in Country S is the headquarters of the Inferno Ring? Gu Junjian wanted to say something. Even Officer Bao, who was standing at the side, was equally shocked. The Inferno Ring had existed for so many years, and even the Interpol could not find a trace of it. Not to mention finding the headquarters of the Inferno Ring. Yet, Yun Jian had directly given him the address. Coupled with the fact that Yun Jian had threatened to destroy the Inferno Ring the moment she mentioned it, and the fact that Yun Jian had killed all the members of the Inferno Ring, Gu Junjian was suddenly struck by a terrifying thought. Could it be that Yun Jian had a grudge against the Inferno Ring? Otherwise, why would a little girl like her pay so much attention to the Inferno Ring, which was second only to the Inhun organization and the Wuxia mercenaries? This shouldn't have happened. Yun Jian did not intend to hide the location of Inferno Ring's headquarters. She nodded in front of Gu Junjian and Officer Bao. Yes. Chu Ning and the others, who had been standing at the side without interrupting, were stunned speechless by Yun Jian's actions. They thought that they already knew Yun Jian well enough, but they didn't expect that. She even knew people from Inhun and Wuxia mercenaries. She even knew the location of the Inferno Ring's headquarters. Alright, we'll move out immediately. Gu Junjian nodded and took out his phone to call his superior to request for the military to send people over. Yun Jian also sent a text to Snake Lizard, asking it to send some people to F province to support Officer Bao's men and wait for the Inferno Ring to send people to rescue Hertz. Just after Gu Junjian and Yun Jian finished their calls and texts, a man with a deep frown appeared on his face. A man's voice that was deep in thought with a frown rang out. Yun Jian, I want to ask you something. The person who spoke was Lu Shiyun, who was standing not far away. Chu Ning and the others were also stunned. Captain, what do you want to ask? Why are you being so secretive? Haha. Chu Xiangnan chuckled as he teased, but Chu Ning pulled his ear and dragged him to the side. What's the matter? Yun Jian asked, pursing her lips. Your codename is Killer God, and you know people from the Wuxia mercenaries. From what I know, the boss of the Wuxia mercenaries also has the codename Slaying God, which is so similar to your codename. Slaying God is the #1 on the international secret agent ranking. I really want to know, are you guys related? Chapter 554. Lu Shiyun's words caught everyone's attention. It was Officer Bao and Coach Su's first time hearing that Yun Jian's code name was Slashing God. Gu Junjian and the rest knew about it, but with Lu Shiyun's reminder, they focused their attention. Although Slashing God and Slaying God had different pronunciations, if one thought about it, there was only a slight difference between the two names. Yun Jian was able to convince the Wuxia mercenaries and an Hun group to help them eliminate the Inferno Ring. It did not make sense for a junior high school student like her to do so, did it not? Everyone stared at Yun Jian, trying to get an answer from Yun Jian. Under everyone's expectant gaze, Yun Jian raised her brow. She looked energetic, giving people the urge to know everything about her. Yun Jian's performance was too shocking. Her ability had surpassed that of a junior high school student. Under everyone's gaze, Yun Jian's lips curled up. Her smile was mesmerizing, delicate yet not lacking in beauty. Just the sight of it was enough to fill one with joy. She curled her lips and calmly spat out the words that shocked everyone. It has something to do with me. Yes? Yes. Yun Jian was related to Slaying God, the #1 secret agent in the international ranking? That was the #1 secret agent in the international ranking. Gu Junjian and the rest felt as if there were 10,000 horses galloping in their hearts. A sudden shock and fear spread through their bodies. Who was Slaying God? In Gu Junjian and the rest's eyes, all information about Slaying God could only be described as rumors. Rumor had it that Slaying God appeared and disappeared mysteriously. She started killing at the age of 12 and within 2 years, she went from an unknown female secret agent to a dark horse in the underworld. Rumor had it that she had eliminated the top 10 assassin organizations when she was 13. She had eliminated an entire organization on her own. She was only 13. What would a normal child be doing at the age of 13? They would be growing up in their parents' arms. However, to Slaying God, these things that were impossible were all facts. This was because only a small number of people knew that Slaying God had been abducted by the organization when she was 5. Now that she was 13, she had stepped on countless lives and blood. 8 years of growth was enough to turn a child into a terrifying killing machine. However, after Slaying God annihilated one of the top 10 assassin organizations on the list at the age of 13, she killed the previous boss of Wuxia mercenaries and replaced him before everyone could process what had happened. This step was enough for Slaying God to gain a foothold in the international arena. By the time she was 16, Slaying God had already taken the world by storm and was ranked #1 on the international secret agent ranking. This kind of growth speed terrified everyone. And now, Yun Jian actually said that she was related to that legendary character. How could Gu Junjian and the others not be shocked? How could they not go crazy? In fact, Gu Junjian and the others would never have dreamed that Yun Jian would become 1 year younger when she was 16 years old in her previous life. When she was reborn, Yun Jian was only 15 years old. Now that the new year was over, she had turned from 15 to 16 years old. In fact, Yun Jian was already 17 years old now. It was just that her body was 1 year younger. You know her. I'm referring to Slaying God. Lu Shiyun gulped as he asked again. There was an unmistakable panic on his face. If Yun Jian really knew Slaying God, everyone present would be shocked. After all, not many people in the world had seen Slaying God's face. I'm her. However, the girl's clear and loud voice was as pleasant as the sound of nature, pulling everyone's attention back to the present. Chapter 555. Yun Jian was Slaying God? What kind of international joke was this? Everyone stared at Yun Jian in horror. Their faces were drained of color. Slaying God, the top assassin on the international secret agent ranking, was not on the same level as everyone present. Some countries and regions had categorized Slaying God as one of the people not to be trifled with. The mere thought of such a terrifying existence was enough to send chills down one's spine. Did Yun Jian just say that she was Slaying God? However, Gu Junjian and the rest who knew about Yun Jian's skills were stunned. Gu Junjian, in particular, was completely dumbfounded and in disbelief. In spite of it, Gu Junjian was the one who knew Yun Jian's skills the best among everyone present. This was because Yun Jian had killed Wolf Blade, who was ranked 10th on the international assassin ranking. Wolf Blade, who was ranked 10th on the international assassin ranking, was killed by Yun Jian, a junior high school girl. No matter how one looked at it, it was completely unrealistic. However, it was the truth. Back then, Ge Junjian had thought that unless Yun Jian was one of the top 10 assassins on the international secret agent or assassin ranking, how could she kill Wolfblade alone? She was a top-notch assassin. This. Lu Shiyun panicked when he heard Yun Jian's words. He looked at the smiling girl. Just when Ge Junjian believed her and the rest were doubtful and fearful, the girl's melodious voice was heard again. I was just kidding. When they turned to look again, Yun Jian was already squinting with her arms crossed. She tilted her head and looked at everyone. The glimmer in her eyes made them feel relaxed and happy. Phew, Yun Jian, isn't this a little too much? I almost believed it. Fang Xiaoran patted his chest. He seemed to be in deep shock. That's right. You really made me break out in a cold sweat. Chu Xiangnan, who had just been dragged away by Chu Ning by the ear, came back again. He stared at Yun Jian for a few seconds and laughed out loud, bringing back some of the tension in the air. Come on, my Yun Jian loves to joke around, haha. Chu Ning chimed in. However, Yun Jian didn't usually joke around. Yun Jian smiled awkwardly. Her smile was very shy. Cough. So it was a joke. Lu Shiyun recovered from the tense atmosphere and rubbed his nose. Compared to Chu Xiangnan's group, he was more careful. However, Lu Shiyun didn't think too much about it. Just a joke. Officer Bao was so frightened that he almost suffocated. Then, he pursed his lips, and the fear from before disappeared. Only Ge Junjian was still frowning and deep in thought. Yun Jian's joke made him feel that what she said was true. Yun Jian was the secret agent, slaying God. Ge Junjian had a feeling that even if Yun Jian wasn't slaying God, she was still related to slaying God. However, Ge Junjian couldn't say what the relationship was. Yun Jian pursed her lips and spoke again. I do have a certain relationship with the Kosha mercenaries, and the Inferno Ring has a grudge against the Kosha mercenaries. So don't worry, the Kosha mercenaries won't let the Inferno Ring off the hook. So you don't have to worry about being implicated. Yun Jian's words made everyone's expression change slightly. Officer Bao was the first to nod. Yun Jian's words made everyone feel more at ease. In fact, the thing that they were most afraid of when dealing with the Inferno Ring was that the Kosha mercenaries and an Hun group wouldn't come to help. Would they not be doomed if they went up against the Inferno Ring alone? Chapter 556. Alright, we can start now. Ge Junjian spoke up after Yun Jian was done giving instructions. Ge Junjian was the highest-ranking officer among everyone present, so he had absolute authority to carry out his orders. When the people present heard this, they all agreed. Officer Ge, leave this to me. Officer Bao had a good impression of Ge Junjian. To be honest, Officer Bao did not like Ai Guoxuan. Although Ai Guoxuan was considered Officer Bao's superior, the latter's attitude of not caring about their lives chilled Officer Bao's heart. To be honest, other than Yun Jian, Officer Bao and the others were the only ones who would be targeted for revenge after the Inferno Ring members died in the dojo. What Officer Bao did not expect was that his own officer in F Province, Ge Junjian, would come to his aid instead of Ai Guoxuan. Officer Bao was grateful for Ge Junjian's gesture. You stay here first. The Kosha mercenaries will be here soon to help you, Yun Jian said to Officer Bao. Officer Bao nodded. In the end, Yun Jian and the others bid farewell and left. Ge Junjian drove them back to Zhe province overnight. Yun Jian and the others arrived at the dojo at night, but it was not too late. At least, the dojo and other places were still open at this hour, and so were the supper shops. Ge Junjian had planned to stay a night in F province before returning, but he did not expect to run into something like this. Ge Junjian checked out of the hotel room he had booked and drove Yun Jian and the others back to Zhe province overnight. They had planned to stay a night in F province because they would get tired easily after driving for a long time. Moreover, they could not see the route clearly at night, but Ge Junjian could not be bothered with that now. Fortunately, Lu Shiyun and the others, who had learned how to drive, were able to switch with Gu Junjian for a while. Therefore, Yun Jian and the others returned to Zhe province at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Lu Shiyun, Chu Ning, and the others were not strong enough, so Gu Junjian sent them all back home. Yun Jian had originally planned to go home before organizing a search for Ce. Before that, Yun Jian had something more important to do. Qin Yiru, Xiao Yunzhu, and Yunyi were currently in Xinjiang town and had yet to return to Longmen City. Initially, Yun Jian and Yun Yi had agreed to visit Qin Yu's house on the 12th, but she had to postpone it for a few days due to a last-minute plan. As for Qin Yu, Yun Jian did not plan to let her return to the organization with her during the new year. When she parted ways with Gu Junjian, Yun Jian asked him to send her to Lan Su's house. Yun Jian had arranged for Lan Su to stay. Other than going to Lan Su's place before the new year, Yun Jian was not free at all. It was late at night and Yun Jian did not plan to return to Xinjiang town, nor did she want to go back to Dong Ruan's house. Yun Jian had something important to discuss with Lan Su. After Gu Junjian sent Yun Jian to Lan Su's suite, Yun Jian went upstairs alone to knock on the door. It was 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Yun Jian had only knocked twice when Lan Su ran out to open the door. Lan Su was surprised to see Yun Jian when he opened the door. Yun Jian had come to visit him once before the new year but had not come since. Yun Jian had gone to Xinjiang town and Yun Jian had told him about it. Why did she come to his place in the wee hours of the morning? He almost called the wrong name. Yun Jian, you're here to see me now? Lan Su had not seen Yun Jian for a long time. Her heart was with the witch tribe, so when she saw Yun Jian, she could not help calling out, Lord Witch Goddess. Chapter 557. After closing the door, Yun Jian stood in the luxurious suite with Lan Su. When Yun Jian had asked Zhang Jifan to arrange a place for Lan Su to stay, she had picked a suite in the best location in Longmen City. Lan Su, on the other hand, was a clean and refreshing girl. Entering Lan Su's house, Yun Jian saw the clean living room. The lights in the living room were still on, including Lan Su's bedroom next to the living room. The door to Lan Su's bedroom was wide open as well, the lights glaring. Yun Jian shifted her gaze back to Lan Su. Lan Su was used to wearing all black. She had an aloof look but she had thin brows, big eyes, and thin lips, a classic beauty. Yun Jian could not help being impressed. Lan Su's ancient black gown accentuated her slender figure the most. When they first met, Lan Su's ancient black gown gave off a refreshing and beautiful feeling. Back to the topic, Yun Jian looked at Lan Su's charming eyes under her long lashes and was about to speak when Lan Su beat her to it. Yun Jian, why are you looking for me? Lan Su's words made Yun Jian press her lips together. I might not be able to come back in the next few days. You know that my mother, elder brother, and younger brother are in Xinjiang town now. What I'm going to do might bring them danger, so please go to Xinjiang town and look after them for me. Just make sure they're safe and don't let anyone take advantage of the situation, Yun Jian said. Yun Jian was afraid that Inferno Ring's people or those who had been eyeing her covetously would take the chance to lay their hands on Qin Yiru and the rest when she was not by their side. Yun Jian would not make the same mistake twice. When Yun Jian found Xiao Yunzhu in her past life, she had left Xiao Yunzhu in the Kosha mercenaries. She did not know that snake, lizard and tiger, leopard were not in the organization at that time and Xiao Yunzhu was abducted then. Although Yun Jian suspected that the old folks in the Kosha mercenaries were involved, she was not entirely sure. In the end, it led to Xiao Yunzhu's tragic death. Therefore, Yun Jian would never allow such a thing to happen a second time. Just make sure they're safe. Lan Su's big eyes blinked. Her change from her aloof demeanor warmed Yun Jian's heart. Yun nodded. There was a reason for her to look for Lan Su. Because Lan Su's ability. Lan Su came from the Yulong continent, and the people of the Yulong continent all had the power to cultivate. These were things that the people of Earth who lived in the human world could not compete with. Therefore, asking for Lan Su's help was the best idea that Yun Jian could come up with at the moment. There was no other way. All right. Lan Su will definitely not disappoint the great sorcerer goddess. Lan Su suddenly stepped back and placed one hand in front of her chest as she promised Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded slightly. She did not blame Lan Su for calling her the great sorcerer goddess again. Because Yun Jian knew that this was how Lan Su and the other cultivators of the Yulong continent made promises to others. As long as a cultivator made a promise like this, then even if the heavens fell and the earth cracked, she would still keep her promise. Thank you. Yun Jian squinted at Lan Su and thanked her from the bottom of her heart. Her family was her root. To Yun Jian, Qin Yiru and the others had already become a part of her that she could not part with. This is what Lan Su should do. Lan Su nodded. It was a dreamless night. Early the next morning, Yun Jian drove her Ferrari back to Xinjiang town with Lan Su. This was Yun Jian's first time driving a Ferrari back to Xinjiang town. Therefore, when she drove the car to Xinjiang town, Zhang Meihua, who was standing outside the house, did not recognize it immediately. Chapter 558. Yun Jian nodded. Ignoring Zhang Meihua's shock, she walked around her and headed into the house. Due to the urgency of the situation, she had returned to Xinjiang town to find someone to protect Qin Yiru and the rest, so she did not have time to talk to Zhang Meihua. It was Yun Jian's first time driving a Ferrari back to Xinjiang town. When she returned, the passers-by in Xinjiang town were shocked. The Ferrari that Yun Jian had modified had a wild and arrogant feel to it. In addition, there were only 3 Ferrari in the world. Therefore, in the eyes of the crowd, they had never seen a car like this before. Zhang Meihua knew that Yun Jian had started New Cruise, a company that sold cars, but she did not expect Yun Jian to drive a car back. Was Yun Jian not only 16 years old? One needed to be 18 years old to get a driver's license. Was she not breaking the law? However, Zhang Meihua did not think too much about it. After all, her precious granddaughter was now an advanced special forces soldier. She was the director of New Cruise. She was too busy greeting her. However, Yun Jian did not pay any attention to Zhang Meihua at all. Naturally, Yun Jian still remembered how Zhang Meihua had treated her mother. However, she pretended not to know because Zhang Meihua was treating Qin Yiru very well on the surface. Although she was pretending to be nice to Qin Yiru due to her identity, as long as Qin Yiru was happy, Yun Jian would not stop her. After all, Zhang Meihua was Qin Yiru's biological mother. Naturally, Qin Yiru treated Zhang Meihua like a mother and daughter. In short, as long as Qin Yiru was happy, Yun Jian would pluck the moon from the sky. As soon as she entered, Yun Jian saw her mother, who was becoming more and more glamorous, sitting in the living room and chatting happily with a group of relatives who had come to visit Zhang Meihua. Due to Yun Jian, these relatives were now courteous to Qin Yiru and fawned over her as much as they could. Qin Yiru did not have to worry about anything now, so Qin Yiru looked much younger than before. Qin Yiru stood up immediately when she saw Yun Jian enter with Lan Su. Xiao Jian, why are you back so soon? Where's Officer Go? Why didn't he send you back? Qin Yiru went up to check Yun Jian and asked suddenly. Mom, Officer Go had something to do and went back. There's a training session in the military, so I'll be leaving later but I'll be back soon, Yun Jian said as she pulled Lan Su to Qin Yiru and introduced her to Qin Yiru. Mom, this is Lan Su. She's my friend. Her school asked her to write an essay for the winter break for a provincial competition. It's about the fields, but she grew up in the city and has never seen the fields in the countryside, so she's coming back with me to stay here for a few days. I can't stay here because I have something to do in the military, so please take care of her for me, Mom. Yun Jian had already discussed her confession with Lan Su before she came. It was natural for Yun Jian to lie now. Hello, Auntie, Lan Su greeted Qin Yiru after Yun Jian said that. Qin Yiru was a little disappointed when she heard that Gu Junjian did not come. In spite of it, Qin Yiru greeted Lan Su when she heard that she was her daughter's friend. Hello, hello. You're Su, right? Come in, don't be shy. Just treat this as your own home. Lan Su nodded and entered the house. Then, Mom, I'll be going first. Yunjian squinted and turned to leave. Jie. Xiao Yunju ran down the stairs with his short legs. Jie. Is C.E. Gidge here? Xiao Yunju ran like the wind, his bouncing and skipping made Yunjian delighted. No, Yunjian answered after caressing Xiao Yunju's head. Xiao Yunju hung his head in disappointment. Chapter 559. Yunju sprinted to the door with his short legs in delight and lightness. Even Zhang Meihua, who had just returned from the entrance, could not help glancing over at the sound. Yunjian looked up slightly as well, only to see a tall silhouette appearing just in time under the warm sunlight of winter. Yunjian pressed her lips together and beamed brightly as she followed Xiao Yunju over. Xiao Yunju was already in C.E.'s arms. C.E. Gidge. Xiao Yunju called out excitedly in C.E.'s arms. The magnetic voice came from above. C.E. rubbed Xiao Yunju's head, but his eyes were on Yunjian, who was making her way to him. A.E., you're here. Come in and have a seat. Qin Yiru walked over to greet them with a glance. Before Yunjian could reach C.E., Zhang Meihua, who was about to return from not too far away from the entrance, could not help chuckling. A.E. must be here for Xiao Jian. Come on, come in. Have some tea before you leave. Zhang Meihua called out to C.E. like Qin Yiru and even went to the door to tug at C.E.'s sleeve, asking him to come in. Zhang Meihua was incredibly polite to Yunjian now. She was courteous to C.E. since she had seen C.E.'s Lamborghini the last time. They were all rich people. As someone who had been through this, Zhang Meihua could tell early on that the young man was most likely interested in Yunjian. As long as she maintained a good relationship with the young man, she was not afraid that Yunjian would not provide for her when she was old. TSK. Just thinking about it made Zhang Meihua feel like the future was within reach. Why didn't she think of treating Qin Yiru and Yunjian better from the beginning? Then there's no need to be so friendly now. However, just as Zhang Meihua was about to touch C.E. with her dry and wrinkled hands, C.E. avoided her. No need. C.E. turned his head and glared at Zhang Meihua. Zhang Meihua's heart clenched when she saw his unapproachable look, coupled with his arrogant aura. At this moment, Zhang Meihua could feel C.E.'s murderous intent, so she didn't dare to move a muscle. Yunjian clearly saw C.E.'s small movement, but Qin Yiru didn't notice it. Yunjian walked to C.E.'s side and looked at Xiao Yunju, who was nestled in C.E.'s arms, with a gentle gaze. C.E.'s gaze was fixed on Yunjian. Qin Yiru walked to C.E. as well. Qin Yiru looked at C.E. and greeted him warmly. A.E., come in and have some tea. Sure. At Qin Yiru's invitation, C.E. shifted his gentle gaze away from Yunjian and nodded at Qin Yiru with his perfect side profile. His attitude toward Zhang Meihua and Qin Yiru just now was a stark contrast. Zhang Meihua stood aside awkwardly, but she dared not say anything. She could see C.E. and Yunjian's attitude toward her even if she was dumb. To prevent C.E. and Yunjian from getting impatient, Zhang Meihua kept her mouth shut and followed C.E. and Yunjian into the house. Yunjian had planned to go to an Hun group to look for C.E., but she didn't expect C.E. to be back, so she didn't have to rush to an Hun group. There was no harm in staying at home a little longer, so Yunjian walked side by side with C.E. into the house. Qin Yiru walked in front. Chapter 560. From the moment Lan Su saw C.E., she was completely dumbfounded. It was different from when she first found Yunjian. When she first found Yunjian, Lan Su was only pleasantly surprised. Yunjian was the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe. Her status was one of the best in the entire Yulong continent. In her previous life, Lan Su was the protector of the sorcerer goddess. Therefore, when she found the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe, Lan Su was only pleasantly surprised. It was the ecstasy of finally finding the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe. However, the moment she saw Lan Su was completely shocked. The Yulong continent was a very vast world. However, in the Yulong continent, there was actually a higher level. The universe was vast and boundless. As humans on Earth, they were just as insignificant as dust in the vast universe. The Yulong continent was located in the endless outer space between the universe and Earth. Perhaps one day, humans would be able to reach there. However, even if they took a rocket and set off from Earth, they would not be able to reach the Yulong continent even after a few million years. This was the difference. Similarly, although the Yulong continent was a land of immortal cultivation, it was completely impossible for the people of the Yulong continent to come to Earth from there. As for the tunnel and the ancient tomb that led to the Yulong continent, it was actually man-made. That tunnel was actually a teleportation array. A transportation portal could directly transport the people of the Yulong continent or the people of Earth to the other continent through the tunnel. Lan Su also came to Earth through that tunnel. As for the Lord God, the reason why Lan Su was so terrified when she saw was because that tunnel was rumored to be a formation set up by the Lord God. He directly tore the space apart and set up a transportation portal on Earth and the Yulong continent at the same time. Lan Su was sure that even the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe would not be able to do such a thing when she was at her peak. Not to mention a possibility, she did not even have to think about it. As for the Sur God's appearance, Lan Su had only seen the Sur God's appearance once when he followed the sorcerer god to the Yulong mainland. The phrase, shocking the heavens, was referring to that time. Lan Su naturally remembered what he looked like. As for the Lord God, Lan Su's information was limited. He had only heard that the Lord God had come to the Yulong continent from the deity continent, which was far above the Yulong continent. But today, Lan Su actually saw the Lord Divine Lord who was revered by all living beings here. How could she not be alarmed? How could he not be respectful? Looked exactly the same as Sir God. Lord Divine Lord? Qin Yiru walked to the front. She was the first to see Lan Su's terrified face. She immediately asked suspiciously. Yin Jian's eyes flashed at the same time. She had heard Lan Su talk about the Lord Divine Lord before, but she did not know much about it. When saw Lan Su greet him respectfully, he reached out and pressed his slender fingers to the side of his head. Some images suddenly flashed past. He frowned slightly, and a trace of seriousness appeared on his handsome face. Mom, Lan Su loves acting. She plans to develop her career as an actress in the future. We are usually like this. Cooperate with her more and improve her acting skills, Yun Jian explained as she pursed her red lips. In 1998, the entertainment industry in countries Z had already begun to develop. Those who did not have a television at home more or less knew what it was like to be an actor. Chapter 561. Still want to act? She wants to be an actress. The path of being an actress isn't easy. She's an actress. She'll be laughed at if she wants to be an actress. Yun Jian had just finished speaking when Zhang Meihua walked over to Lan Su and nagged at Lan Su. In the eyes of the older generation, being an actress meant being in the limelight, just like the actors in ancient times. In the beginning of the entertainment industry, actors were disdained by the masses. In 1999, things had started to improve, but in the eyes of the older generation like Zhang Meihua, actors were just entertainers, and entertainers were just people who sold their faces. No one would have thought that in the years to come, actors would become household names. Zhang Meihua looked down on actors and acted as if she was doing Lan Su a favor. In front of Yun Jian and she persuaded Lan Su not to become an actress. In reality, Yun Jian had only said those words to cover up Lan Su's loss of composure. She hadn't expected Zhang Meihua to believe her words and even use the tone of an experienced person to persuade Lan Su. Of course, Yun Jian knew that Zhang Meihua had said those words to gain her favor. Even if Lan Su's ambition was to become an actress, Yun Jian didn't like how Zhang Meihua belittled actors and tried to gain her favor. No one had the right to belittle any industry. Who knew if actors were doing well now, but what if they could get better in the future? When TV drama actors first started to develop, they were disdained by everyone. Mom, stop talking. Even Qin Yiru couldn't stand Zhang Meihua's words. She walked over to Zhang Meihua and tugged at the corner of her clothes. Even if the industry wasn't doing well in the beginning, since it was Lan Su's own path, Qin Yiru thought it wouldn't be bad. However, Zhang Meihua seemed determined to persuade Lan Su. She pushed Qin Yiru away and continued to speak to Lan Su. Young lady, I'm just being kind. You're a beautiful young lady. Why do you want to be an actress? Hurry up and focus on your studies. Getting into university is the most important thing. These words made Lan Su even more embarrassed. She was at her wit's end when it came to people like Zhang Meihua. Yun Jian was just looking for an excuse. She didn't expect Zhang Meihua to hold on to this matter and not let it go. Actually, Zhang Meihua thought that she was knowledgeable. Her main goal in persuading Lan Su was to make Yun Jian feel that she was a kind person and that she would help her persuade Lan Su to repent. Lan Su looked at Yun Jian awkwardly. Yun Jian pursed her lips. Zhang Meihua was still rambling on when Yun Jian turned to look at Qin Yiru and said, Mom, let's go upstairs. With that, Yun Jian called Lan Su, Ce, and Xiao Yunju to follow her upstairs. Hey, hey. Zhang Meihua waved her hand downstairs but was blatantly ignored. She was furious, but she didn't dare to say anything. She could only walk away with her but swaying. At this moment, Yun Jian had already brought them upstairs to the small room that Yun Jian was staying in. Lan Su, what exactly happened just now? Yun Jian turned to look at Lan Su and continued to ask. Lan Su looked up at Ce in fear. She then said calmly, Yun Jian, why does he look so similar to Sir Immortal Lord? Or is he Sir Immortal Lord? Chapter 562. After Lan Su finished talking about the Lord Divine Lord, Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly, but she didn't make a sound. Ce remained silent the entire time. Xiao Yunju was still holding a large pile of building blocks in his hands and was happily setting them up. Xiao Yunju didn't even know what was going on. Lord Divine Lord. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows, but she didn't have any recollection of it. Lan Su said that she was the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe. Even if this was true, Yun Jian didn't remember this. And now, Lan Su said that Ce looked like the Lord Divine Lord. Moreover, Lan Su had followed her to the Lord Divine Lord's sacrificial ceremony in the Yulong mainland. Yun Jian didn't have any recollection of it at all. If Lan Su didn't mention it, she wouldn't even know that she was from the Yulong mainland. That was a few thousand years ago, but Lord Sorcerer Goddess, please believe me. Everything Lan Su said is true. Although I only saw the Lord Divine Lord's handsome face from afar, it's still fresh in my memory. Lan Su raised 3 fingers and swore to the heavens. Lan Su didn't mean anything else. She just wanted to confess that what she said was true. I believe you. Yun Jian stood up from the bed and looked at Lan Su with a determined gaze. Then, Yun Jian frowned slightly and turned to look at Ce. When Ce met Yun Jian's beautiful and probing gaze, his heart tightened. He even had the urge to bind Yun Jian under his wings. Do you want to know? His pleasant voice was like the summer fireworks. It was fleeting, but it still had a lingering magnetism. Seeing Ce turn to look at her, Yun Jian's heart skipped a beat. Then, she immediately regained her senses. Actually, Yun Jian wanted to ask Ce. This should be a coincidence, right? Based on what Lan Su had said, the Lord God, who looked like Ce, must be from the deity continent, a continent that was many times more mysterious than the Yulong continent. More importantly, that Lord Divine Emperor was the most powerful person in the deity's continent. Yun Jian naturally wanted to ask, but she didn't know where to start. She gradually lowered her eyes. I am. However, at this moment, Siyi's deep voice suddenly rang out. Hearing this, even Lan Su, who was standing to the side, stared at him with her eyes wide open in shock. He said he was. He was Lord Divine Lord. You. Yun Jian was also stunned. However, what shocked Yun Jian the most wasn't Siyi's appearance on Earth. Rather, why did he tell me this? From what Lan Su had said, Yun Jian could tell that the Lord Divine Emperor of the Yulong continent had a very high status. Since Ce had never mentioned this, it was obvious that this was a secret that couldn't be told. However, he had actually told her. Why are you telling me this? Yun Jian asked. Her pink lips looked very appetizing. I won't hide anything from you. It was just a promise. Ce's handsome lips curved slightly as he spoke. However, this sentence made Yun Jian's heart beat faster. As soon as he finished speaking, Ce stretched out his slender arm. In the next second, he scooped Yun Jian up and pulled her towards him. Then, he turned around and pressed Yun Jian into a corner in front of Lan Su. Lan Su was so shocked by Ce's actions that she quickly covered her eyes. However, she was very curious and secretly peeked through the gaps between her fingers. When did her sorcerer goddess and Lord Divine Lord, cough cough? Chapter 563. Xiao Yunju's innocent words made everyone present feel extremely awkward. Yun Jian's earlobes were even redder than before. She pushed Ce away shyly and even pinched Ce's arm lightly. Ce immediately let go of Yun Jian's push. He looked at Xiao Yunju helplessly. Cough cough. As if trying to ease the awkwardness, Yun Jian coughed lightly. When she was done with the initial awkwardness, she asked Ce randomly, as if trying to adjust her emotions. Since you're the Lord deity that Lan Su mentioned, why did you come to this world? Yun Jian's words were purely to cover up Ce's sudden actions. Ce's eyes stared unblinkingly at Yun Jian. The gentleness in his deep black eyes was clearly visible. I don't remember everything that happened in the past. I was born here, the young master of an armaments family. Ce didn't hide anything from Yun Jian. He didn't even tell Adam and Mo Sun, who were by his side. Lan Su was Yun Jian's subordinate. Since Yun Jian didn't mention it, Ce didn't mind. Yun Jian then heard the gist of things from Ce. Ce only remembered that he was the Sir God of the deity's continent. He didn't forget anything else. What he remembered were only fragments. It was as if a movie was playing in his mind. He only had intermittent memories. He didn't remember everything. As for why he came here, he had already forgotten. However, he remembered that the entrance to the Yulong continent was the ancient tomb. That was why Ce told Yun Jian that he was going to the catacomb and that it was a must. That was why Ce knew so much about the sandalwood box. When Yun Jian heard this from him, she immediately came to a realization. Lan Su, who was standing to the side, finally regained his senses from Ce's actions towards Yun Jian. Lan Su, who was standing behind Yun Jian, did not hear a single word Ce said. Don't look at Lan Su's usual attitude of keeping people 1,000 miles away. At this moment, Lan Su was actually thinking, she, the witch goddess, was enlightened. She was actually with a man. One had to know that when the sorcerer god was still alive, not a single man had appeared by her side. If the sorcerer god gave birth to a daughter, it could only be a girl. That girl could inherit the position of the sorcerer god. However, it was a pity that the witch goddess in her previous life did not even have a man by her side, let alone being in a relationship with a man. What Lan Su wanted to do the most right now was to tell the good news to everyone in the shaman tribe. Sister, I want a kiss. I want a hug. After Ce and Yun Jian finished talking, Xiao Yunju was very smart. He knew that it was time for him to interrupt, so he spoke up. At the same time, Xiao Yunju even stretched out his arms. He pouted and looked at Yun Jian adorably as he shouted. When Ce heard that Xiao Yunju wanted a kiss and hug from Yun Jian, his handsome face immediately darkened. Then, he pulled Xiao Yunzhu over discreetly and carried Xiao Yunzhu in his arms before Yunjian could hug him. Big brother Ce. Xiao Yunzhu was very happy to be carried by Ce. He shook his little arms and his beautiful little face was flushed. Good boy, Ce carried Xiao Yunzhu with one arm and rubbed Xiao Yunzhu's head at the same time. At this moment, Lan Su was looking at Yunjian in surprise. She asked Yunjian, Sorcerer God, when will you be able to have a child with Sir Immortal? As long as the Sorcerer God gave birth to a girl, even if she could not return to Yulong mainland with her, she could still let her child inherit the position of the Sorcerer God. Chapter 564. Lan Su's straightforward words made Yunjian blush. Ce, on the other hand, smirked at Lan Su's words. Wait for her to come of age. Ce was even more direct as he hugged Xiao Yunzhu and replied to Lan Su. Lan Su's question was enough to make Yunjian blush, but what Ce said next made Yunjian blush even more. What was worse was that Ce had been staring at her with his deep, dark eyes. His eagle-like gaze gave off an endless sense of conquest. That's great. Lan Su clapped her hands happily. Yunjian was 16 now. She could afford to wait for another 2 to 3 years. She had waited for thousands of years. Cough cough. Xiao Zhu's still here. Yunjian looked up with a rosy face and hinted. Xiao Yunzhu was currently looking back and forth between Yunjian and Ce with his beady eyes. After a while, Xiao Yunzhu suddenly asked, Jijia and Ce Gij are going to give birth to a little sister for Xiao Zhu to play with? That's great. Right after Xiao Yunzhu said that, Yunjian was about to lecture Xiao Yunzhu about his words. The door was suddenly opened. Qin Yiru was standing at the door with 4 steaming cups of tea. Yunjian was speechless. Did her mother hear that? Qin Yiru walked in suspiciously and placed a few steaming teacups on a small tea table under everyone's watchful eyes. Susu, Xiao Zhu, Ae, Xiao Jian, these are freshly brewed tea leaves. Drink them while they're hot. Qin Yiru said. She probably did not hear it. It was fortunate that Xiao Yunzhu did not speak loudly just now. Yunjian breathed a sigh of relief. Pressing her lips together, she picked up the teacup and blew on it softly. Xiao Jian, I heard you guys talking about giving birth to a little sister just now. What are you giving birth to? Qin Yiru asked out of the blue. Qin Yiru did not hear her clearly. Yunjian's hand that held the teacup froze. Her heart skipped a beat, but she pretended nothing was wrong and told Qin Yiru, Mom, you must have heard wrong. As she spoke, Yunjian stood up and walked over to pull Ce out of the house. Before that, she took Xiao Yunzhu from Ce's arms and let Xiao Yunzhu follow Qin Yiru. Mom, I should go to the military. I'll be late if I'm late. Yunjian tugged the corner of Ce's sleeve and walked out. Ce pressed his lips together. His lips were curled up as if none of this had anything to do with him. Hey, don't be in such a hurry. Look, Ae hasn't even drunk the tea yet. Qin Yiru called out from behind. Mom, he's not thirsty, Yunjian said and pulled Ce out of the house quickly. This child. Qin Yiru called out softly, but there was a sense of helplessness in her voice. Yunjian pulled Ce out of Zhang Meihua's house. Let's take my car, Ce spoke up. Yunjian thought about it and decided to leave the Ferrari in Xinjiang town. She and Ce got into the Lamborghini. Ce started the engine and drove off, disappearing into the morning sun. On the way, Yunjian explained to Ce what she wanted to do, including the cooperation with Gu Yunjian's military. At the same time, she told Ce that she wanted to borrow Anhun's power. Ce nodded without a word. No need for that. I'll get Adam to wipe out Inferno Ring directly. Ce glanced at Yunjian from the corner of his eye and took out his phone from his pocket, planning to call Adam. Chapter 565. Before Ce could reach his hand into his pocket, Yunjian pressed down on the back of his hand. Yunjian narrowed her eyes as she looked at him. There was a flash of warmth in her eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Don't. Yunjian pursed her lips. Her delicate red lips made Ce feel refreshed. I want to destroy the Inferno Ring with my own hands. Yunjian looked at Ce. Her delicate and beautiful face was burning with hatred. It made Ce itch. The woman he loved was right in front of him. He suddenly felt his whole body heat up. He suddenly regretted saying that he would wait for her to become an adult. She was so beautiful in front of him, but he couldn't do anything to her. Ce really wanted to slap himself and take back his words. Okay. When Ce snapped out of his daze, he had already parked the Lamborghini in a small forest on the way to the military training camp. After saying that, Ce turned to look at Yunjian. He turned his body slightly and his tall body pressed down on Yunjian, who was sitting in the front passenger seat. Ce suddenly reached out to stroke Yunjian's silky hair. Yunjian's hair was loose today. It was rare for her to let go of her hair tie and not tie her hair into a high ponytail. At this moment, her loose hair was close to her ears and fell softly. Under the warm morning sun, Yunjian's beautiful face was as delicate as a newborn baby's. It's just a mere Inferno Ring. Since you want to play with it, I'll give it to you. Ce's handsome face leaned closer to Yunjian. Although Yunjian was in the prime of her youth, she was no longer a girl who would be shy when she heard sweet words from a man. Besides, what Ce said wasn't anything mushy or sweet. However, at this moment, Yunjian's cheeks were flushed red. She pursed her lips slightly, and a touch of bitterness spread throughout her body. If international businessmen, politicians, or some of the underworld leaders were to hear Ce's words, they would probably be so scared that their faces would change color instantly. What do you mean by a mere Inferno Ring? If even Inferno Ring, an assassin organization that was second only to Han and Kosha mercenaries, could be described as insignificant, then what other organization would be worthy of his attention? Yunjian lowered her head, but she felt warm inside. She wasn't the kind of girl who would be fooled by sweet nothings, but Ce's words warmed her heart. Just as Yunjian felt Ce's tall figure gradually approaching her, she expectantly thought that he was going to do something to her. Suddenly, Ce sat up straight. He suddenly curved his lips. At an angle that Yunjian couldn't see, his handsome lips curled up slightly. His good-looking eyebrows also raised slightly. Yunjian was disappointed and shy. Yunjian's original plan was to make a trip to Han first, then head straight to Inferno Ring's headquarters. However, now that Ce was back, she didn't have to go to Han anymore. Ce had just driven the car to the entrance of the military base when he saw Yunjian walking out with a frown. Yunjian waited for the car to stop before alighting. Ce also got out of the car. He lazily stuffed his hands into his trouser pockets and followed behind Yunjian. The moment he saw Yunjian, Yunjian was stunned. Then he frowned slightly and relaxed. He asked her, Yunjian, why are you here? I've already contacted Han and Kosha mercenaries. We can set off together now. Yunjian spoke. Then she saw Yunjian's expression and asked, Officer Gu, what happened? Chapter 566. To the officers in the military, international assassin and secret agent organizations were untrustworthy. The words that came out of their mouths were not convincing at all. Moreover, Yunjian was the only one who applied to the higher-ups. Of course, the higher-ups would not agree to it. Negotiate? Yunjian raised her eyebrows and pursed her beautiful red lips. Yes, the main reason why the higher-ups didn't agree to my application is because they don't trust you. Yunjian, you have to understand. After all, you're just an advanced special forces soldier. You're considered a newbie. The higher-ups have to consider the big picture. If they can't provide absolute proof that an Han organization and Kosha mercenaries can abide by the agreement and cooperate with us and won't bite us, then the higher-ups will have to consider the bigger picture. It's hard to convince the higher-ups with just your words alone. Gu Junjian nodded and explained. However, this was also the truth. After all, the higher-ups had to consider the big picture. Without absolute proof that the people in the military could cooperate with an Han organization and Kosha mercenaries, they naturally wouldn't agree to such a dangerous thing. After all, Yun Jian was just a newbie. Her words were not convincing. Between a newbie and the big picture, the higher-ups naturally chose the latter. An Han organization and Kosha mercenaries can just come forward? Yun Jian raised her eyebrows and asked again. It's best if it's the higher-ups, Gu Junjian said again. If the higher-ups of an Han organization and Kosha mercenaries came forward to ask for instructions from Gu Junjian's higher-ups, then the result would be completely different. After all, Yun Jian was just a little girl. She herself was still a child. The higher-ups were worried about how she could guarantee that an Han organization and Kosha mercenaries would cooperate with the military and wouldn't go back on her word and kill the people in the military. This was indeed a problem worth thinking about. At this moment, if there was someone in the know who coincidentally heard Gu Yunjian's words, they would probably laugh out loud on the spot. The two leaders of an Han and Kosha mercenaries were standing in front of Gu Junjian. If they didn't rebel, who in the organization would have the guts to go back on their word and bite the military? Yun Jian frowned slightly. For the time being, she did not want to expose her identity in front of Gu Junjian. Furthermore, Ce had said that he could help her destroy the Inferno Ring directly. Yun Jian really didn't want Ce to help her with this matter. She could accept Ce and Gu Yunjian's help. After all, the Kosha mercenaries had yet to recover from the extermination of those old fogies. However, Yun Jian did not want Ce to exterminate the Inferno Ring for her. The Inferno Ring owed Xiao Yunju. She, Yun Jian, wanted to replace Xiao Yunju and take back the Inferno Ring bit by bit. How could she let those people from the Inferno Ring leave this world so easily? This was letting them off too easily. However, at this moment, she did not expect that Gu Yunjian's men would not be able to help her. Yun Jian knew that the Inferno Ring was not weak. Hence, even after borrowing the manpower from an Han and her own Kosha mercenaries, she still felt that it was a little insufficient. However, she did not want Ce to lend her more manpower. After all, an Han also needed turnover. She knew that Ce doted on her, but she did not want to become a woman who relied on men to grow up. However, she knew that there was someone behind her. He would always be standing behind her. Hence, Yun Jian dared to exterminate the Inferno Ring so boldly, under the circumstances that her own Kosha mercenaries had yet to recover. Let me settle this matter. At this moment, Ce's mellow voice sounded. His tone was as if this matter was as easy as sesame seed dust to him. Chapter 567. Yun Jian did not want to expose her identity and none of the Kosha mercenaries were with her. Qing Yu had gone home for the new year while Snake, Lizard and Tiger, Leopard were in the organization. It would take some time for Snake, Lizard and Tiger, Leopard to come over. Yun Jian could not afford to wait. Her original plan was to have Officer Bao's men and Snake, Lizard's men to guard F province and wait for the Inferno Ring to walk right into their trap. She would go straight to the Inferno Ring's headquarters and catch them off guard. Considering that Bai He and the rest held a high position in Inferno Ring, the organization would naturally pay attention to them. However, Gu Junjian said that the higher-ups did not allow the military to help. Unless the higher-ups from an Han group and Kosha mercenaries came forward, Yun Jian would not be able to provide the manpower. Ce said that he could do it. This made the astute Gu Junjian frown again. It was shocking enough that Yun Jian knew the people from an Han group and Kosha mercenaries. Now, Ce said that he could solve this problem. Young man, you're skilled, but can you really get the higher-ups from an Han group and Kosha mercenaries to come here? Gu Junjian doubted this point. It was not that Gu Junjian looked down on Ce, but what he said was truly shocking. Gu Junjian only found out after sparring with Ce that he, an old man who had been in the military for more than 10 years, could not even last one move against him. This matter put Gu Junjian in a difficult position for quite a while. Gu Junjian observed carefully and saw the slight frown on Yunjian's face when she heard that he wanted to get the higher-ups from an Han group or kosha mercenaries to come for a discussion. He thought that Yunjian could not get them. It wasn't that Gu Junjian doubted Yunjian or Ce, but the fact that Yunjian knew someone from the Han organization and the kosha mercenaries was already shocking enough. As for the higher-ups, how could she come into contact with them? 20 minutes at most, Ce said as he raised his wrist and looked down at the black watch on his wrist. What? Gu Junjian didn't understand and asked in a daze. The higher-ups of an Han will be here in 20 minutes. Ce glanced at his watch and took out his phone to send a message. Once the message was sent out, Adam and Mo-san, who had followed him to Longmen City, would rush here immediately. This. Gu Junjian was very surprised. You can take us to the leader's office first. We can talk face to face. Ce turned his handsome face to Gu Junjian. Gu Junjian glanced at Yunjian and finally nodded. Okay, come with me. The leader's office. As the largest military training camp in Jianghu province, this was no doubt where all the higher-ups of the military were stationed. Gu Junjian held a high position, but his jurisdiction was different from these leaders. These leaders were one rank higher than Gu Junjian and could be considered as the highest executive officers in Jianghu province. Gu Junjian was just one step away from being promoted. However, Gu Yunjian's jurisdiction was different from theirs. It was difficult for Gu Junjian to be promoted. The leaders were still discussing Gu Yunjian's request to mobilize the military to work with an Han organization and the kosha mercenaries to annihilate Inferno Ring. That Gu Junjian must be possessed this time. He's been a military officer for so many years after all. How could he listen to a newbie this time? One of the leaders said angrily. I've heard of the newbie as well. She's called Yunjian, right? I heard that she's been on 2 missions. She must be a confident young lady. She must have no idea how dangerous the world is and how she could be deceived by assassin organizations like an Han organization and the kosha mercenaries. Another leader sighed. What makes you think that I've been deceived? The door to the office opened as Yunjian and Ce followed Gu Junjian side by side. Yunjian spouted arrogant words as soon as she entered. Even Gu Junjian did not dare to say such words that sounded disrespectful to his superior. Chapter 568. To be honest, Yunjian was his subordinate. Gu Yunjian's heart skipped a beat when he heard Yunjian's reply after she entered the room. After all, even Gu Junjian himself did not dare to say such words. The few officers present were shocked when they heard Yunjian's arrogant words. You're Yunjian? The officers were not stupid and one of them immediately asked. Yes. Yunjian replied generously. Then, she crossed her arms in front of her chest and displayed her kingly aura. You said you weren't deceived. Young lady, you're young and I've read your information. You're Yunjian and you're just a child from an ordinary family. Let me ask you, how can you guarantee that powerful organizations like an Han organization and kosha mercenaries will cooperate with our military and not bite us in the end? A tall and burly officer with a square face asked Yunjian. This officer's surname was Lin and he had a lot of influence in the military. The reason why Officer Lin spoke up was purely because he did not dare to take the risk. Who in the room did not want to destroy the Inferno Ring? The group of officers present were all executive officers of Jianghu province. In Jianghu province, they were at the top of the hierarchy. However, in Country Z, they were only one of the officers. The previous officer, Officer Yuan, was the officer of F province and had the same status as Officer Lin and the others. However, if they could destroy the Inferno Ring, they would become famous internationally. Because with the power of an Han organization and kosha mercenaries, they would not use such despicable means to destroy you. Yunjian's following words hit the nail on the head. An Han organization and kosha mercenaries, no matter which organization it was, were both world-class organizations. Both of these organizations possessed an existence that was comparable to the military power of a country. With such status, What reason would they have to use such underhanded means to destroy the military of Zhe province? Officer Lin fell silent after hearing Yun Jian's words. Ce didn't say a word. He only looked at Yun Jian with a gentle gaze. No matter what Yun Jian said or did, he would do it even if she wanted him to suck the water dry in the sea or pluck all the planets and moons from the sky. If the higher-ups of an Han organization or Kosha mercenaries come forward to negotiate with us, we will agree to it, Officer Lin said after thinking for a while. That's what you said. At the door, two tall figures walked in again. They were Adam and Mo. Senator Translator, WQL Editor. Alim Ce had just called Adam and Mo. Senator since the call had been connected. Adam and Mo. Sen had figured out what was going on from the loud voices. After Adam entered, he said arrogantly to Officer Lin and the others, "I'm Adam, the leader of the Han organization." He's Mo's senior. Ce's subordinates had always been direct and decisive. Their personalities were similar to Ce's. An Han organization's leaders, Adam and Mo. Sen. At this moment, Officer Lin, who was sitting in his seat, suddenly shouted in shock. All the officers in the room stood up in shock. They originally only wanted Yun Jian to call the higher-ups of an Han organization or Kosha mercenaries over. There were 20 to 30 people in the higher-ups of an Han organization and Kosha mercenaries. However, Adam and Mo. Sen were the top figures of an Han organization. There were 4 people in charge of an Han, while Adam and Mo. Sen were the ones who followed the most mysterious leader of an Han. These 2 people could undoubtedly hold half of the decision-making power of an Han organization. However, this wasn't what shocked Officer Lin. It was that Adam and Mo. Sen would only follow the leader of an Han organization and listen to his orders. This wasn't a secret in the underworld. There were even rumors that meeting Adam and Mo. Sen was the same as meeting the most mysterious leader of an Han organization. Officer Lin and the others looked at Ce in shock. At this moment, he was the only person who fit the role of the leader of an Han organization. Chapter 569. In spite of it, Chief Lin and the rest quickly retracted their gazes. How could they be sure that a terrifying figure like an Han's leader would show up here if Adam and Mo. Sen were the only ones here? It was rumored that an Han's leader was even more mysterious than slaying God, who ranked first on the secret agent ranking. The man in front of them was at most 20 years old. To convince everyone present that Ce was an Han's leader, Adam and Mo. Sen had to admit it themselves. "You too, are you really an Han's leaders, Adam and Mo. Sen?" Chief Lin and the rest had obviously ruled out the possibility that Ce was an Han's leader. From their point of view, it was hard to say if Adam and Mo. Sen were really an Han's leaders. How could they prove that they were really an Han's leaders? "You don't believe me?" Adam guffawed and took a step forward, glancing at Ce from the corner of his eye. After receiving Ce's gaze, Adam understood at once that he did not want him to acknowledge him. Adam then took out a phone from his pocket lazily. His mature and handsome face made Chief Lin and the rest's hearts skip a beat. "Since you don't believe me, I'll prove it to you. Let's see if you believe me when I, and Han's headquarters, fire a missile and blow up Longmen City's downtown." Adam did as he said and made a call. Adam and Mo. Sen were men who followed Ce. They could tell from Ce's gaze what their young master wanted them to do. Adam was a hot-tempered man. He wanted to show them some proof when he heard Chief Lin's distrust. "Hey! No, no, no. I believe you. I believe you. Who would make it sound so easy to fire a missile? Who else could it be other than an Han's leaders?" Chief Lin was startled as he quickly stood up from his seat to greet them. Regardless of whether Adam was telling the truth, Chief Lin dared not take the risk. After all, the people living in Longmen City's downtown area were all civilians. Even if Adam was joking, Chief Lin dared not risk the safety of the civilians with something like this. As soon as Officer Lin spoke, the other officers also began to agree. After all, if Adam and Mo. Sen weren't really from an Han, they wouldn't have acted so arrogantly. "Well then, officers, let's have a pleasant cooperation." Yun Jian stepped forward with a smile. Her lips curled up slightly as she spoke in a relaxed manner. With Adam and Mawson's actions, Officer Lin and the others finally agreed after some contemplation. I finally know why Officer Ge trusts you so much. Little girl, you win. Officer Lin finally let go of her hand. It had to be said that Yun Jian was very good at seizing opportunities. Officer Lin and his men had never seen a young girl like Yun Jian. Of course, there was another reason why he had agreed to Yun Jian's request. It was because of CE. Their intuition told them that this man was not simple. Officer Lin had good eyesight. He had clearly seen the exchange of glances between Adam and CE. But the military can't send a lot of men to you. At most, we'll send 10 groups of Advanced Special Forces members. This was the most Officer Lin could give. They needed manpower in the military as well. Each member of the Advanced Special Forces had the ability to fight against 10 people. 10 groups of Advanced Special Forces members meant that each group had at least 7 people and at most 10 people. There were about 100 people in total. That's enough. Thank you. Yun Jian nodded with a squint and looked at Officer Lin and the others, continuing to brag, I'll let all of you know that trusting me is the best choice you've ever made. Once Inferno Ring was eliminated, Shi Province's military would attract the world's attention. As for Officer Lin and the others, their blood was boiling. This young lady was crazy. Chapter 570. Yun Jian's frivolous words sent a jolt through the commanding officers present. Of course, none of the officers present would be participating in this mission. However, since they had allowed Ge Junjian to send 10 teams of Advanced Special Forces to assist her, this lineup was more than enough for Yun Jian. After all, her Kosha mercenaries and an Han organization were the ones who would be fighting the main battle. Although the military personnel were useful, these 100 or so Advanced Special Forces members were comparable to 1,000 ordinary people. In addition, they would be able to tie down some people in the fight against Inferno Ring. This way, her Kosha mercenaries would definitely win. Yun Jian's lips curved slightly. After half a year of baptism, her coquettish face had become even more feminine. When she had just been reborn, this body was still skinny. After almost half a year, Yun Jian's body was now curvy and well-shaped. Especially when she breathed slightly, those proud breasts would contract under the thick clothes. This scene almost caused CE to have a nosebleed. This was the first time in his life that he almost had a nosebleed when he saw a woman. If he really had a nosebleed, Adam and Emosen might have used it as a joke. CE quickly turned his head away from Yun Jian. However, above his handsome jawline, the handsome curve of his lips formed a line. Seeing CE's smile, Emosen, who was standing at the side and watching Adam speak but didn't say anything, twitched the corner of his mouth. Emosen had never seen his young master so expressive. Hence, a wicked smile appeared on Emosen's mature face. Then, we can go now. Ge Junjian pursed his slightly dry lips. At this moment, the surging emotions in his heart was something that he wouldn't be able to understand if it wasn't for him. To Ge Junjian, Inferno Ring, an organization that held absolute authority in the world, was like a hero who was suddenly going to do something big. To Ge Junjian, this was undoubtedly the most dangerous yet most fascinating mission he had been looking forward to ever since he became an officer of the Advanced Special Forces. Okay. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She then turned around and followed Ge Junjian out of the leader's office. Adam and Emosen followed behind CE, protecting CE as she left. When they saw CE being escorted away by Adam and Emosen, the group of leaders present heaved a sigh of relief. This man's aura was too strong. Even if he didn't speak, people could feel his strong aura. In less than half an hour, Ge Junjian gathered the 10 strongest teams of Advanced Special Forces members that he had selected to be in the military base. After the explanation, the 10 groups of Advanced Special Forces members were rather excited. Fear was mixed with a bit of passion and passion. They wanted to work with Han and Kosha mercenaries to eliminate Inferno Ring. What a great honor this was. Yun Jian had just gone to Team Monarch to inform them. The members of Team Monarch were all newbies and were not capable enough to participate in this mission. Therefore, Yun Jian made her way here after informing the Team Monarch members. CE had already brought Adam and Emosen back to Anhun to make arrangements. Of course, they left after bidding farewell to Yun Jian. When Yun Jian returned from Team Monarch's training ground, she saw Gu Junjian standing at the same spot calling out to her. Yun Jian, we're just waiting for you. Come over quick. At this moment, there were 5 buses parked beside Gu Junjian. Yun Jian nodded slightly and walked over. Officer Gu, why is she going too? Just then, an unfriendly male voice was heard. It was obvious that this person had no idea what was going on. Chapter 571. The champ squad that Xiao Weiming was in, which was the group of advanced special forces led by Yu Fengcheng, was considered one of the best among the advanced special forces. That was why Xiao Weiming despised Yun Jian and the rest back then. Now, because of the previous mission, he had become enemies with Yun Jian's Team Monarch. After the previous mission was completed by the newbies Team Monarch, all the members of the champ squad were criticized and punished by Gu Junjian. Gu Junjian said that the oldest among them had been in the advanced special forces for decades, and even the youngest had been in the military for more than 10 years. In the end, they were worse than newbies. At that moment, Xiao Weiming's champ squad and Flying Dragon squad hated Yun Jian's team of 7 to the core. Of course, Xiao Weiming and the rest did not know that Yun Jian's team of 7 had gone to Province F, including what Yun Jian did in the leader's office just now. Xiao Weiming only listened to Gu Yunjian's brief description of what happened in the martial arts center in Province F. This time, the military was going to bring people to destroy the Inferno Ring. Logically speaking, in Xiao Weiming's opinion, a newbie like Yun Jian had no right to participate in this mission. Therefore, Xiao Weiming despised Yun Jian's appearance. However, Gu Yunjian's next sentence caused an uproar. Of course. Yun Jian was the one who contacted Anhun and Kosha mercenaries. If she doesn't go, how are we going to cooperate with Anhun and Kosha mercenaries? Gu Yunjian's words struck fear and astonishment into the hearts of everyone present. What? 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 Yun Jian was the one who contacted Anhun and Kosha mercenaries? How was that possible? Anhun and Kosha mercenaries were 2 major assassin mercenary groups with immense strength, and Yun Jian actually knew people from these 2 organizations? How could Anhun and Kosha mercenaries work together with the army to eliminate the Inferno Ring? Gu Yunjian's words made Xiao Weiming, who had been bragging a moment ago, shut up instantly. Officer Gu, let's go. Yun Jian only thought that Xiao Weiming was ridiculous. She did not even look at Xiao Weiming as she walked over to Gu Junjian and spoke. All right. Gu Junjian nodded and called for everyone to board the 5 buses that had been prepared in advance. Xiao Weiming and the members of the champ squad who were originally looking down on Yun Jian stared blankly at her. It was only when Gu Junjian called for them to board the bus that this group of people blushed and followed him onto the bus. The 5 buses took a full 3 hours to arrive at the pier in Zhe Province's Ning City. The headquarters of the Inferno Ring was located at Xiaowan Pier in S Country. In order to travel from Z Country to S Country, one would have to pass through several countries by bus. Therefore, it was unrealistic to travel by car. Taking a cruise ship from the sea to Country S was the best choice. The group traveled for 2 days on the cruise before arriving at S Country. When they arrived at S Country, it was already 6 or 7 o'clock at night. After exiting the cruise, Yun Jian said to Gu Junjian seriously as she looked at the bustling city illuminated by neon lights, let's find a hotel to rest first. We'll take action in the wee hours of the morning. All right. Gu Junjian nodded. Yun Jian, do you have to do this? Aren't you acquainted with Anhun and Kosha mercenaries? Why does Officer Gu have to listen to your orders? Who do you think you are? Xiao Weiming couldn't help but shout when he saw the girl he hated so much standing in front of him as if she was flaunting her prowess. Chapter 572. Because I know people from the Inhan organization and Kosha mercenaries. Do you know them? If you do, you'll be the one to instruct them. Yun Jian glared at Xiao Weiming, giving him a look as if she thought he was an idiot. Yun Jian rarely used harsh words to mock others. However, Yun Jian was already annoyed with Xiao Weiming's constant buzzing like a bee. Xiao Weiming, who had been mocking Yun Jian earlier, was rendered speechless by Yun Jian's reply. Although Yun Jian was usually quiet, every word she said hit the nail on the head. Seeing that Xiao Weiming was suddenly intimidated by Yun Jian, a person who was neither from Champ Squad nor Flying Dragons who stood beside Xiao Weiming chuckled and mocked him, "That's right. Huh, I didn't expect you to be so speechless by a little girl even though you're usually so amazing." This person obviously did not have a good relationship with Xiao Weiming. Humph. Xiao Weiming scoffed and walked away. Hee hee, little girl, I support you. You're amazing. I'm always annoyed with Xiao Weiming. The man who helped Yun Jian rebuke Xiao Weiming smiled at Yun Jian. This person was Zhang Dali, a member of one of the 10 Advanced Special Forces teams that came to Country S. Yun Jian smiled faintly at him. Beep beep beep. Just then, the phone hidden in Yun Jian's pocket vibrated twice. Yun Jian reached out to answer the call. Gu Junjian and the rest did not know what Yun Jian had heard. They only thought that Yun Jian did not say anything. She narrowed her eyes slightly and smiled. She hung up the call after a while and turned to look at Gu Junjian, pursing her red lips. There's a change of plan. We're leaving now. Huh? The group of Advanced Special Forces members was at a loss. Follow me, Yun Jian said. By then, all the members of the Advanced Special Forces were fully armed. The battle with the Inferno Ring had begun early. They didn't wait for dawn to set off. Yun Jian wasn't with the Kosha mercenaries, and she wasn't with Inhan either. Leading a group of Advanced Special Forces to the pier at the bend of the bridge, Yun Jian explained as they walked, unafraid that the people from Country S could understand Chinese. The original plan was for Inhan and Kosha mercenaries to take the lead, but now it looks like we'll have to go first. The Advanced Special Forces were the vanguard. What kind of joke was this? As soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, someone couldn't help but shout, "What? You want us to take the lead?" The Inferno Ring was an international assassin organization. The assassins and agents of the Inferno Ring are all powerful. Are we not going to wait for the Inhan and Kosha mercenaries to charge in together? Yeah, what kind of joke is this? There are only 100 of us, so if we go first, wouldn't we just be throwing our lives away? Yun Jian, you're too much. Do you really want to lead us to our deaths? I don't want to die because of you. Xiao Weiming seized the opportunity to scold Yun Jian. Instantly, everyone started pointing fingers at Yun Jian. Xiao Weiming's smile became even more obvious. Just as Gu Junjian was about to say something, Yun Jian suddenly shouted, "All of you, shut up." Among the 100 Advanced Special Forces, Yun Jian was the only female. Yun Jian's shout made everyone's hearts skip a beat, and they all shut their mouths instantly. This was her aura. Her natural aura. However, the girl's next words were enough to shock everyone. Throwing our lives away? What are you afraid of with me around? No matter how powerful the Inferno Ring is, I'd like to see if they have the ability to hurt you in front of me. Chapter 573. Yun Jian's domineering aura stunned everyone present. What were they afraid of with her around? What did they have to be afraid of? Even a 16-year-old girl who had just joined the Advanced Special Forces was not afraid. What were they, a group of grown men, afraid of? For a moment, everyone was silent. Those who don't want to come with me, I won't force you. You can go back to your country now, be it on a cruise or a plane. I'll pay for the round-trip tickets. Yun Jian was already 1.6 meters tall, but standing in front of this group of Advanced Special Forces soldiers who were all 1.75 meters tall, she looked petite. However, she looked at the crowd. Her vision bypassed everyone. Under everyone's heated gazes, the aura she exuded was stronger than anyone else's. Yunjian, Gu Junjian, am not a coward. Since I've followed you here, I'll destroy the Inferno Ring even if I die. Gu Junjian said proudly. His firm words resonated with everyone present. Yes, they were men. They were from Country Z. Not cowards. They represented Country Z's province. It was their honor to have the opportunity to follow Gu Junjian to Country S to destroy the Inferno Ring. There were many advanced special forces soldiers who wanted to come but did not have the ability to do so. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Looking at the passionate faces of the people present, the desire to do something big swept through everyone's body, corroding every cell in their bodies and sinking deep into their bones. You're a little girl and you're not afraid of death. Why should we be? Little girl, whether we live or die, I'm going all out. My life is in your hands. Someone stood in the crowd and shouted. That's right. I'm a real man. Why would I be afraid of the Inferno Ring? Even if I die, I'll die with honor. Another person stood out and shouted. With one or two people taking the lead, the rest followed suit. Their imposing words resounded through the air. Even the passers-by in Country S who did not understand Chinese could not help but stop and look at the group of men suspiciously. In the end, the passers-by shook their heads and walked away in shock and fear. The passers-by couldn't help but think, are these foreigners crazy? He actually stood on the side of the road and shouted loudly. Moreover, he was shouting at a little girl. What was he doing? The most important thing before a battle was the hearts of the people. As long as the hearts of the people were united, there was nothing that could not be done. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She raised her eyebrows and her red lips curled up. She looked at everyone present and finally said something to motivate them. I'm here. I won't let you die. So, come with me now. After Yunjian finished speaking, the group of people followed after Yunjian in an imposing manner. Xiao Weiming and the other members of the Champ Squad and the Flying Dragon Squad stared at Yunjian's back for a while with fiendish eyes. They had all received orders from their superiors to come to Country S. If they ran away now, wouldn't they become deserters? What's more, they were here to eliminate the Inferno Ring. It was a mission that their superiors wanted them to complete. How could they just leave like that? Therefore, all he had to do was to keep his head down and follow. They took a cruise from the pier at the bridge to a holiday island called Tiny Island. Tiny Island. It was a beautiful holiday island. However, no one knew that it was also the headquarters of the Inferno Ring. Yunjian led Gu Junjian and the rest directly around the mountain top of the island. They passed through steep cliffs that ordinary people could not climb and arrived at the center of the island. There were steep cliffs all around them. The Inferno Ring was like a paradise that was situated in the middle of cliffs. Chapter 574. It was surrounded by steep cliffs. From the top, it looked like a canyon with a bottomless abyss. But from the bottom of the mountain on Tiny Island, it was overgrown with trees. Even if one were to look up from the surroundings of Taipei Island, one would not be able to see anything special about it. But Tiny Island was a very strange island. No one would have thought that there was a giant pit in the middle of this mountain that looked no different from other mountains. The headquarters of the Inferno Ring wasn't here before. But one time, a helicopter from the Inferno Ring happened to pass by the airspace of this small mountain range and discovered this place. The giant pit was overgrown with trees. Because the sun shone directly through the cliffs, the trees here grew especially well. And because Tiny Island was by the sea, but there was a lot of fresh water on Tiny Island, the Inferno Ring moved their headquarters here. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. The Inferno Ring must have thought so too. Is the headquarters of the Inferno Ring really in this godforsaken place? A large group of people climbed up from the bottom of the mountain with climbing tools and finally landed in this giant pit surrounded by cliffs. This place was overgrown with trees. It was indeed a good place to hide. But at this moment, other than the occasional sound of insects, there was no other sound. Yunjian nodded. Then she put away her climbing tools and took the lead to walk forward. Yunjian, keep your voice down. This is the headquarters of the Inferno Ring. If you walk so loudly, the people of the Inferno Ring will hear you. You may want to die, but I don't. Seeing Yunjian strutting forward without hiding her tracks, Xiao Weiming couldn't help but shout. His words were filled with the fear of death. Yunjian ignored him. Gu Junjian thought that Yunjian had her reasons for doing so. Even though this tiny island wasn't big, this huge pit that was surrounded by cliffs and had no blind spots was still quite large when walking on foot. We're almost there. Yunjian pressed her lips together and stroked the Browning pistol strapped to her waist before stroking the butterfly knife that was hidden in her belt as well. She walked forward confidently. She had picked out the Browning in the army before she left. Other than the butterfly knife, the weapon he was most used to using in his previous life was the American-made Browning pistol. Not long after Yunjian spoke, everyone saw a large base appear in the cover of the large forest in front of them. This base was very similar to the houses they usually saw, but it was dozens of times bigger than the houses they usually saw. Yunjian knew that in this base, everything was set up and mixed together. For example, the training ground for assassins, or the meeting room for the higher-ups of the Inferno Ring. Not only did Yunjian know all this, she even knew that the meeting room of the Inferno Ring's upper echelons was located through the side door in the south. When she gestured with her hand, the ASF soldiers immediately understood that she was going to barge in through the south door. With Gu Junjian in the lead, the ASF soldiers stepped into the area closest to the south door without making a sound. Each of them held a gun with both hands and leaned against the wall of the base, waiting for Gu Junjian's orders. This was how the ASF soldiers usually did things. Just then, Yunjian came straight to the south door in a high-profile manner. She kicked the door open amidst everyone's cries of surprise and F***CK. Simple and brutal. F***CK. What was Yunjian trying to do? Everyone present could not help but gasp. How could she do that? If the Inferno Ring's people were alerted, wouldn't they all be dead? Just then, everyone saw Yunjian standing at the south door. She stood there proudly and shouted arrogantly, "Job, get your ass out here with your Inferno Ring members." Chapter 575. It was not that Yunjian had never seen Job before. When she was slaying God in her past life, she had attended an international assassin organization's gathering in disguise. However, she was with snake, lizard and tiger, leopard, so no one recognized her as the boss of the Kosha mercenaries. Moreover, she was young. Even if she had not been reborn, she was only 1 year older than her current body. She would be 17 years old after the new year. A 17-year-old slaying God who ranked first on the international secret agent ranking? Even if she attended the gathering, no one would think of her as slaying God. In fact, Yunjian was only 16 years old in her past life. Perhaps to many people, she was still a child. However, she had been in the secret agent circle for 11 years. Her achievements were not more outstanding than others, nor were they more heaven-defying than others. She was afraid of death, so she wanted others to die first. However, this was not what the advanced special forces were concerned about. They did not know any of this. All they knew was that Yunjian had lost her mind at that moment. The Inferno Ring was an assassin organization. They were here to launch a sneak attack and annihilate the organization. Although they did not discuss this beforehand, everyone knew that they were here secretly. Of course, they would have to sneak in. But what about Yunjian? She even dared to kick open the door of the Inferno Ring? Was this a declaration of war? Yunjian, come back. Since their whereabouts had been exposed, they were no longer afraid. Instead, they watched as Yunjian stood at the south gate and kicked open the door. What if the people from the Inferno Ring suddenly fired at her without warning? Gu Junjian shouted out of concern. This was the Inferno Ring, an assassin organization that everyone feared. Yun Jian would die if she did this. Bang, 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 just as Gu Junjian finished shouting, the sound of machine gun fire came from the south gate. The continuous stream of bullets were fired from the south gate. Their target was Yun Jian, who was standing outside the gate. No. Come back, Yun Jian. Gu Junjian was scared to death. He quickly rushed to Yun Jian. He had to save Yun Jian even if he had to die. She's courting death. She doesn't want to live anymore, and now she wants to kill our officer Gu. Xiao Weiming roared at this time. Even at this time, he couldn't help slandering Yun Jian. The members of the advanced special forces gripped their guns tightly and were about to approach Yun Jian. However, just as Gu Junjian took 2 steps toward Yun Jian, before Gu Junjian arrived at the south gate where Yun Jian was, he saw Yun Jian curl her lips. In the next second, the advanced special forces soldiers witnessed a terrifying scene. Yun Jian's body moved slightly to the side, and then her whole body fell to the side and rolled on the ground. He had actually dodged the barrage of machine guns. However, this was not the only thing that frightened everyone. The moment Yun Jian rolled, she pulled out a butterfly knife and a Browning pistol from her waist. She held the butterfly knife with the tip of the knife facing downwards in her left hand and the pistol in her right hand. After she got up from the roll, she rushed toward the south gate like the wind. All they heard was Yun Jian's crisp command, "Go." Just hearing Yun Jian's simple command, everyone was instantly pumped up. Plus, Yun Jian's actions just now. It would take more than 10 years of practice for someone to be able to move so quickly. She actually dodged the machine gun's barrage. Oh my God! Someone exclaimed. By the time everyone reacted, Yun Jian had already disappeared from the south gate. The base was huge. Seeing that Yun Jian had already rushed in, gunshots were heard from the house. Afraid that something would happen to Yun Jian, Gu Junjian immediately led his men to the south gate. Just as they stood at the south gate and could see what was happening inside the base, a group of people suddenly appeared. What they saw was a large group of people lying in a pool of blood. The back of their hands was printed with the Inferno Ring's unique symbol, a golden rose. Chapter 576. If Gu Junjian and the rest knew them, they would realize that the men lying in the pool of blood were part of the Inferno Ring's upper management. Entering the Inferno Ring's base from the south gate was the meeting room of the Inferno Ring's upper management. When Slaying God attacked, the Inferno Ring's upper management did not even have time to react before they were killed instantly. As for the series of machine guns that were fired after Yun Jian kicked open the south gate, they were fired by the Inferno Ring's upper management who were on guard here. Unfortunately, they would never have imagined that they would die in the hands of a teenage girl. It was fortunate that Gu Junjian and the rest did not follow them immediately. Otherwise, they would have witnessed an even more shocking scene. Yun Jian was holding a butterfly knife in one hand and a pistol in the other. Her series of killing moves were executed in one go. She loaded the gun with bullets in one hand and continued to kill without any hindrance with the butterfly knife in the other. She was using both hands at the same time. Who else in this world could kill everyone in a matter of seconds like Slaying God? At that moment, Yun Jian was already running up the stairs of the Inferno Ring's base and was heading toward the 3rd floor of the large base. Her light footsteps did not make any sound as she stepped on the stairs. Gu Junjian was smart enough to recover from his shock. He then waved his hand, signaling the advanced special forces behind him to follow him. "Let's go," Gu Junjian turned back and mouthed silently. Seeing that, the rest nodded and followed him. Entering the meeting room, they were greeted by a spiral staircase made of metal. Looking up from the bottom, they could see Yun Jian's nimble body jumping back and forth. She soon reached the stairs to the 3rd floor. "Someone's here. Kill trespassers." By then, many members of the Inferno Ring had already noticed Yun Jian, who was on the stairs to the 3rd floor. The group of foreigners started yelling. They immediately raised their machine guns and fired wildly at Yun Jian. Gu Junjian was shielded by a large pillar, so the Inferno Ring members did not notice them. This base was separated by another room, so the soundproofing was quite good. Just now, in the meeting room, Yun Jian had ordered the Inferno Ring's upper echelons to be killed. However, in the Inferno Ring's base, no one had noticed that the upper echelons of the Inferno Ring were already dead. Let's go too. Gu Junjian wiped the tip of his nose with his hand. He gritted his teeth and was the first to rush out with his gun. Gu Junjian and the other ASF soldiers were also wearing bulletproof vests. In other words, as long as they weren't shot in the organs or head from close range, they wouldn't die. At most, he would only suffer some minor injuries. The bulletproof effect of this bulletproof vest was quite good. Of course, no matter how good his bulletproof vest was, he couldn't be shot at close range by a gun. This was because once he was shot by a gun at close range, no matter how good his bulletproof vest was, it would not be able to withstand the attack of the bullet. Just as Gu Junjian and the others rushed out, the north gate of the Inferno Ring's base was also kicked open. The people who entered were all armed with machine guns. After entering, they fired wildly at the base of the Inferno Ring. Gu Junjian's eyes were sharp. He immediately recognized them. These people were most likely from the Inhun organization or the Kosha mercenaries. These people who came in from the north gate did not have any skull markings on them. It was obvious that they were from the Inhun organization. When Inhun organization attacked, Gu Junjian and the others immediately found a place to hide. At the same time, they hid in the dark and helped Inhun organization to shoot at the Inferno Ring. Chapter 577. The reason why Gu Junjian was certain that the people who rushed in from the north gate were from Inhun was because the person who led them in with a silver pistol in his hand was Imo Senator. There were many people in the Inferno Ring's base. And these people's positions in the Inferno Ring could only be considered to be above average. Most of the top people in the organization were treated differently. Some of them were not even in the Inferno Ring's base. The group of people Yun Jian had killed was only a small part of the Inferno Ring's top management. Yun Jian was already on the stairs to the third floor and was about to turn the corner to go up to the third floor when she saw a person appearing in front of her from the corner of the third floor. When she saw that person, Yun Jian's furrowed brows relaxed. That person was none other than Ce. And Ce was striding towards her. Yun Jian was not surprised by Ce's appearance. She lowered her eyes and her gaze fell on the person Ce was holding. Ce was holding a short man who was completely naked except for a towel. Job. When Yun Jian saw this person, she gritted her teeth and a murderous look appeared in her eyes. Yun Jian was standing on the flat ground of the spiral staircase. Ce walked over. He let go of Job and threw the naked Job on the ground. Job looked like he had overindulged. It was not hard to imagine what he had been doing. Below the Inferno Ring's base, all of them had been killed. With the help of Inhun and Gu Junjian's army. In just a few minutes, Job was the only one left alive from the Inferno Ring. Apart from Job, there was probably another one. No. I beg you. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Sob, sob, sob. Just then, a naked woman with heavy makeup walked out of Job's room. She only had a towel around her so she was not exposed. The woman's legs were numb. She trembled as she walked, but she was forced not to stop because Adam was holding a gun to the back of her head. Adam looked away in disdain. He looked at the woman from the corner of his eye and forced her to walk towards Yun Jian. It was not hard to imagine what Job and the woman had done in the room. When Adam and Ce entered the room, it was a mess and the smell was nauseating. Poor Adam had forced Job and the woman to separate them and threw Job to Ce. Ce would vomit whenever he was near other women, so Adam had to do it for him. Ce then grabbed Job and walked out. Adam pointed his gun at the woman and forced her to leave. This was also the reason why Yun Jian had led the advanced special forces and rushed in first and did not meet up with Inhun. The call earlier was from Ce. Ce and Adam had infiltrated the Inferno Ring first to capture Job. He had asked Yun Jian to create a commotion in the Inferno Ring. the bigger the commotion, the better. The bigger the commotion Yun Jian created, the easier it would be for Ce and Adam to capture Job. It was obvious that after Yun Jian had rushed in, Job's bodyguards had all run downstairs. Job himself did not have much power. He relied on his subordinates to protect him. His most powerful subordinate was Tai Jingang. Without Tai Jingang, Job was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He had no power to fight back. Even Yun Jian found it strange. How could someone like Job become the leader of the Inferno Ring? Yun Jian had not been able to do anything to the Inferno Ring, not because Job, the leader of the Inferno Ring, was powerful. On the contrary, Job was the weakest person in the world. The real power was the power that the Inferno Ring had accumulated over the years. At the same time, the Kosha mercenaries had been sent by Snake Lizard to eliminate the Inferno Ring. Chapter 578. Kneel. Adam roared as he pressed the muzzle of the gun against the woman's head again. Ah! No, 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 don't kill me. The woman was so scared that she knelt in front of Yun Jian and Ce without any dignity. At this moment, Gu Junjian and the rest had already walked out from the shadows. After exchanging orders with Mawson, they stood downstairs and watched everything that was happening on the third floor. They saw Yun Jian walking step by step towards Job, who was so scared that he was curled up on the ground. Raise your eyes and look at me. Yun Jian hissed. As she spoke, she took out a blade and stabbed it into Job's thigh without another word. Chi! The crisp sound of the blade piercing flesh made Job, who was sitting on the ground trembling, howl, "Awu." Yun Jian laughed in disdain. She put away the gun and grabbed the butterfly knife in her hand. She then walked towards Job, and in a flash, she was right in front of him. At the same time, the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand was pressed against Job's neck. "Awu, who are you? Who are you? Does my Inferno Ring have a grudge against you? How dare you treat me like this?" Job's short body was curled up as he held his thigh tightly and rolled around on the ground. Grudge? Yun Jian laughed as she stabbed Job's thigh with the butterfly knife. Then she placed the blade that was stained with Job's blood on his neck with a strange smile. What grudge? Hee, today I will slowly pull out your tendons, peel off your skin, and cut off your head. I will let you see with your own eyes how you die in my hands little by little. Yun Jian patted Job's face with the bloody butterfly knife. After speaking, Yun Jian stabbed Job's thigh again. Today she would take revenge for Xiao Zhu. She would let Job have a taste of how Xiao Zhu died in her previous life. She, Yun Jian, was never a weak person. Awu. Job howled again. At this moment, Job's forehead was covered in sweat as he howled, Why? Why? Did I, Job, offend you? Little girl, what did I do to offend you? I beg you, spare me. You can take the Inferno Ring, you can take it. It's not mine anyway. It wasn't mine in the first place. If you want the Inferno Ring, then take it. Yun Jian's cruel methods made Gu Junjian and the others who were standing below feel their hair stand on end. Looking at how Yun Jian was stabbing Job's thigh with her knife, her vicious methods were not something a little girl should be capable of. But why did they see Yun Jian's deep hatred for the Inferno Ring and Job? Xiao Weiming was also trembling. How did he target Yun Jian in the beginning? Then, at this moment, he was very afraid of Yun Jian. This Yun Jian, how could she be so cruel? Ce, on the other hand, stood on the side, keeping his eyes on Yun Jian with a small smile on his handsome face. Yun Jian suddenly stood up. She stretched out her jade leg and stepped on the wound on Job's thigh. She tossed and turned. This action of rubbing salt on the wound almost made Job faint. In the end, he was awakened by Yun Jian's kick. Yun Jian looked at Job with an eerie smile. It's true that you've offended me. You shouldn't have kidnapped my younger brother and ordered Wolf Killer to coerce me into taking the sandalwood box. Yet, you guys killed him before I could even bring the box to you. So, Job, you will definitely die today. She was not afraid of exposing her identity, because she wanted Job to die in shock and fear. She was going to flay Job, and beat him up. She was even more ruthless in her previous life. This was her nature as a secret agent. Chapter 579. She was slaying God? Hearing Yun Jian and Job's conversation out of the blue, everyone broke out in cold sweat. Slaying God? Who else was there? Slaying God who could make Inferno Ring's leader look so terrified, other than the top secret agent in the International Secret Agent chart, who else could it be? Moreover, Yun Jian had said the same thing just now. Was slaying God not the one who stole the sandalwood box back then? In spite of it, how could Yun Jian be slaying God? Slaying God? What? How's that possible? Oh my God, Yun Jian is slaying God. Is this a joke? How can this be? Xiao Weiming cried out, holding his head. The shock on his face could only be described as horror and bewilderment. How could it be slaying God? The top secret agent in the International Secret Agent chart, slaying God? How could it be her? The person who was most surprised was not Xiao Weiming, Yu Fengcheng, and the other members of Champ Squad and Flying Dragons but Gu Junjian who stood at the bottom of the building. Other than Gu Junjian, Ce, Adam, and Mo Sen, no one knew about Yun Jian's background. Was she Qin Yiru's daughter? Gu Junjian had heard a lot of stories about Qin Yiru during his time with Qin Yiru. He had also heard a lot about Yun Jian's past and current changes from Qin Yiru. For example, before the third year of junior high school, Yun Jian's academic results were terrible, even at the bottom of the school. Somehow, from then on, Xiao Jian's personality and inexplicable skills had changed so drastically that it was astounding. Qin Yiru had suspected it as well. However, Xiao Jian was still the same. Moreover, Qin Yiru felt that Yun Jian's subsequent changes were all due to her weakness and incompetence, so Qin Yiru let it go. What shocked Gu Junjian the most was that if Yun Jian was slaying God, how could she be Qin Yiru's child who had been raised at home for more than a decade? Of course, Gu Junjian didn't point it out. After all, there were so many people standing around. Gu Junjian only frowned slightly, but he did not say a word, nor did he say a word. Other than Ce, even Adam, Mo Sen, and the members of Anhun that Mo Sen had brought with him were in an uproar. Slaying God, slaying. No. It wasn't me. I didn't kill your brother. No. As soon as Job finished speaking, his small body tried to crawl to the side. His eyes were filled with fear. It's not you? Who could it be? Ha. Yun Jian stepped on Job's wound and moved with him. After 2 steps, she suddenly spoke and lifted her leg at the same time to stomp on Job's wound. You must die. I'll make you wish you were dead. Mo Sr., just as Yun Jian said that, Ce looked up from Yun Jian and looked down at Mo Sen who was standing downstairs. Mo Sen got the hint and walked out of Inferno Ring's base. It was then that Gu Junjian realized what was going on. Adam and Mo Sen were from an Hun group, but why were they standing beside Ce, waiting for his orders? Adam and Mo Sen were the leaders of the Anhun organization. It was rumored that the 4 leaders of Anhun were Adam, Mo Sen, Shuang, and Lin Wei. The 4 of them had divided their work. Lin Wei was in charge of Anhun's training of secret agents and assassins. Shuang represented Anhun at various events. Adam and Mo Sen followed Anhun's leader. Wherever they were, Anhun's leader would be there. Chapter 580. Could he be the leader of the Anhun organization? The leader of the world's top assassin organization that was scarier than the Kosha mercenaries? Rumors had it that no one had heard of the leader of the world's top assassin organization, Anhun. He did not have a code name. The world only knew that he was mysterious, even more so than the Kosha mercenaries' boss, slaying God. An existence that was even more mysterious than slaying God. If the police saw him, they would have to give way to him as long as the Inhun organization did not invade their country's territory, let alone the Inferno Ring. Gu Junjian remembered that when he was first promoted to the Advanced Special Forces, he was told that there were two forces in the world that should not be trifled with. One was the Inhun organization, and the other was the Kosha mercenaries. Today, he was suddenly told that the leaders of these two organizations were his most prized subordinate and the young man whom he treated as his subordinate's man. How could he, Gu Junjian, not be frightened? How could he not be surprised? Fortunately, although the Inhun organization and the Kosha mercenaries were assassin organizations and mercenary groups, they had never attacked Country Z. Therefore, they maintained a non-interference relationship with Country Z. This meant that even if the other countries and regions were at odds with the Inhun organization and the Kosha mercenaries, the people in his army would not have to go against the two organizations. It was also because of this that the Zhe province's military officers dared to let Gu Junjian work with the Inhun organization and the Kosha mercenaries. Otherwise, wouldn't it be scary to work with two major assassin mercenary groups? Gu Junjian gradually calmed down. He had a lot of questions that he wanted to ask Yunjian alone, but it was not suitable for such an occasion. Just then, Emosen walked in from the entrance of the base with a stove. Everyone looked over and saw that the stove in Emosen's hand was filled with charcoal that had just been burned from wood. It was obvious that the charcoal was taken from the kitchen of the Inferno Ring's base. Emosen even brought a coal clamp with him. Everyone was suspicious. What was he going to do with it? "Young master, this is all I found," Emosen said as he carried the stove to the third floor. Everyone present was a little confused. What was he going to do? When Emosen placed the stove in front of Ce turned and glared at Job with his razor-sharp eyes. However, he said to Yunjian, "If you want to skin him, this is just enough." What Ce said struck fear into everyone's heart. If Yunjian's stabbing Job, then Ce's words were like a demon king from the 18th level of hell. Fear and panic. Xiao Weiming was squatting on Xiao. No one knew how shocked Xiao Weiming was at this moment. He had almost pawned the fear of his entire life on this. Yunjian lifted her foot abruptly, merely glancing at Job. "This is just enough to skin him." Yunjian chuckled and walked over. She used the coal clamp to pick up the glowing charcoal. No. No. It wasn't me who killed your brother. Slaying God. It wasn't me. It wasn't me who ordered it. Don't kill me, don't kill me. I'll tell you a secret. As long as you don't kill me, I'll tell you a secret. It's about the sandalwood box. It's about the sandalwood box. It's something from another world. Don't kill me, I'll tell you everything. Chapter 581. The sandalwood box was an item from another world. Yunjian and Ce naturally knew this. At the same time, Yunjian and Ce also knew that the sandalwood box was an item from the Yulong continent. Yunjian and Ce knew far more about the sandalwood box and the Yulong continent than Job. Because Lan Su was from the Yulong continent. However, when she suddenly heard about the sandalwood box from Job, the leader of the Inferno Ring, Yunjian's heart jolted. She was not surprised about the sandalwood box's origins, nor was she frightened by Job. But how did Job know that the sandalwood box was an item from another world? When Job and the others abducted her younger brother, Yunjian, their demand for Yunjian was very obvious. She had to obtain the sandalwood box within 3 days and hand it over at the exchange location. Otherwise, her younger brother would die without a doubt. That was why Yunjian risked her life to snatch the sandalwood box and head to the exchange location. If Yunjian did not know why Qiao Mu and the others wanted her to steal the sandalwood box before, then Yunjian now had her suspicions. After all, the sandalwood box came from the Yulong continent, and the sandalwood box itself possessed supreme divine power. Now that she heard Job's words, Yun Jian suddenly connected the dots between the Inferno Ring's demand for her to steal the sandalwood box in her previous life and Job's words right now. Yun Jian could also tell from Job's expression that he was not lying. He really did not order Wuxia to kill her younger brother. Speak. Yun Jian stopped what she was doing abruptly and tossed the coal clamp back into the furnace before scolding Job. The group of people below had already frowned upon hearing this. What was a sandalwood box? What was that? Also, this sandalwood box that Job was talking about came from another world? Could it be that there was another world other than Earth? What a joke. This was no longer the feudal society of ancient times. How could another world appear? Job thought that Yun Jian was interested. He clutched his numb thigh and tried his best to sit up straight. I'll tell you. Let me go, and I'll tell you. That was Job's goal. At this moment, Job didn't care about anything other than surviving. He was about to be forced to his death, so how could he care so much? He still had a lot of beautiful women to play with and a lot of money to spend. How could he die? Just now, he was having fun with the woman who was being held at gunpoint by Adam. As a result, they were forcefully separated by Adam, who barged in. TSK, that feeling was really. He was still unable to satisfy it. Speak. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and looked at Job viciously. She had never been a soft-hearted person. Don't forget who she is. Slaying God was the top secret agent in the international secret agent ranking. She was never one to keep her promises. Bang! At this moment, CE raised an exquisite silver pistol and fired another shot at Job's thigh. The shot was unforgettable and everyone who heard it was sweating profusely. Other than Yun Jian, CE was the only one who could act like nothing had happened after firing a shot. You don't have the right to state your conditions. Die, CE said calmly. His deep eyes flashed and the gun in his hand was pointed at Job's heart. Adam, who was standing behind CE, was innocent. His young master had snatched his pistol without saying anything. Chapter 582. I'll talk. I'll talk, I'll talk. Job almost fainted when he was shot in the same spot. Yun Jian stabbed the blade into the base of Job's thigh for the first time before stabbing him multiple times with the butterfly knife. More importantly, she had even stepped on his wound. Every single one of these attacks was fatal. If it was a normal person, they would have fainted countless times already. Luckily, even though Job wasn't the best, he had received special training as an assassin. Back then, Job had climbed his way up from being an assassin, so he naturally had some skills. Even if Job wasn't strong, at the very least, he was at the standard of a normal assassin. After all, he was the leader of the Inferno Ring. If he didn't have any skills, there would naturally be no one following him. But a normal assassin was enough for Job to become the leader of the Inferno Ring. This made Yun Jian suspect that there was someone else behind Job. Yun Jian could tell from Job's face that he wasn't lying. This meant that Job, who knew that the sandalwood box was from another world, wasn't the one who ordered her brother's death. I don't know the details, but I know that the sandalwood box is from another world. It's from a world called the Yulong continent. Job didn't dare to hide anything. He endured the pain and gritted his teeth as he spoke. At this moment, Job had no strength left in his body. Knife wounds, gunshot wounds, and Yun Jian's kick had crippled his leg. If he didn't get treatment in time, he might never be able to stand again. Because he was afraid that CE would really shoot him, Job continued to speak. He tried his best to tell her everything he knew to eliminate himself as a suspect. The Inferno Ring isn't actually mine. The news you heard from the outside world is wrong. The truth isn't like that at all. I've only been the leader of the Inferno Ring for close to 2 years. You might think that I've been the leader of the Inferno Ring for many years, right? Actually, that's not the case. 2 years ago, I was an assassin who had just made a name for myself. My code name wasn't Job, but a mysterious man came to me and told me that he could make me the leader of the Inferno Ring. He said that he could make me the leader of the Inferno Ring with countless beauties and become the leader of the organization. Hee, how can I not agree to such a good thing? Didn't I immediately agree to his request? Later, when I really became the leader of the Inferno Ring, the mysterious man asked Tai Jingang to help me manage the organization. But I found out that before me, there was someone called Job. That person, he was the previous leader of the Inferno Ring. I accidentally found out that he was killed by a mysterious person. I was scared out of my wits at that time, but I didn't dare to make it public. Since you've seen through me today, it doesn't matter. Let's cooperate. I don't want to be killed by the mysterious man. I'm not the Job you think I am. The Job you think I am may have died long ago. I don't know how many people called Job have taken over as the leader of the Inferno Ring. By the way, the mysterious man told me to send Wolfkill to steal the sandalwood box. He was the one who came up with the plan. The sandalwood box is something from another world. The mysterious man told me all this. He seems to be carrying out some plan. I'm telling you all this because I want to cooperate with you. Don't kill me. I've told you everything I know. Chapter 583. In order to survive, Job spilled everything he knew. Of course, he was afraid of dying. This was because he had unintentionally found out that the previous leaders of the Inferno Ring were all named Job. More importantly, those people named Job had never shown themselves in front of outsiders. This meant that without him, the mysterious man could find more people named Job to replace him. This fully explained the scariest thing: he could be killed at any time, just like those people named Job. Hence, when Yun Jian and the rest exterminated the Inferno Ring from the outside, Job decided to come clean. He was not afraid since he was going to die anyway, so he told them everything and begged Yun Jian and Ce to spare his life. He still wanted to live to play with beauties and use the money that he could never spend. Moreover, he had stolen a lot of savings from the Inferno Ring in the past 2 years. The reason why Job had agreed to the mysterious man's request was because he could get many things that he could not get in the past. Are you done? Yun Jian asked with a raised brow. Job held the wound on his thigh and nodded, saying, "Yes, I'm done. I've told you everything I know. Let me go, I'm innocent. It was the mysterious man who made me do all these. I didn't want to do all these bad things." Ce raised a brow at Job's words. Yun Jian continued, "So, the mysterious man was the one who sent Wuxia to kidnap my brother through you?" Yun Jian had just finished, but before Job could speak, she added, "Tell me the truth, don't even think about being hypocritical in front of me, or I'll slit your neck." Slaying God's authority was not something Job could challenge. Job shrunk his neck, clearly fearful of Yun Jian's gaze. He whispered to Yun Jian, but looked up at Yun Jian in fear, afraid that the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand would really slit his neck. However, Job saw that Yun Jian did not make a move, but Ce, who was standing behind Yun Jian, suddenly took out a pistol and aimed it at himself. Just as Job made half a sound, he shot Job's temple with a bang. The bullet entered his temple and his body fell backward. Job could still hear Ce's arrogant but protective words. "Do you think you'll live to see the sun tomorrow?" Even if Job did not give the order to kill Xiao Yunzhu in his past life, he was the one who had sent it to Wuxia. "Do you think you'll live?" His woman's beloved brother, Job's intermediary, had ordered him to kill him. How could Ce let Job see the scorching sun the next day? Ah! Suddenly, the woman kneeling on the ground screamed and was knocked out by Adam's kick. "Young master, Mo-sen and I will lead our men to eliminate the remnants of the Inferno Ring." Adam stood in front of Ce respectfully and said to Ce. Ce replied in a magnetic voice. Adam and Mo-sen led the Inhun members away from the scene. The Kosha mercenaries, on the other hand, had already eliminated the remnants of the Inferno Ring in other places. At this moment, there was only a huge pile of corpses: Yun Jian, Ce, and more than 100 Advanced Special Forces members left at the scene. Other than providing assistance, the Advanced Special Forces did not do anything at all, let alone suffer any casualties. Gu Junjian looked at Yun Jian with mixed feelings. Yun Jian stood up on one leg and looked down at the Advanced Special Forces members downstairs. It's easy for me to kill all of you. What was that supposed to mean? The Advanced Special Forces members standing behind Gu Junjian were shocked and frightened. Chapter 584. Yun Jian, are you going to kill us? Xiao Weiming was the first to ask cautiously. He was already trembling in fear. Xiao Weiming's initial disdain for Yun Jian had turned into fear and horror. Now, Xiao Weiming was truly frightened. Especially now that Yun Jian had said something like that to them. She had actually said that she could kill them easily. Gu Junjian, on the other hand, looked at Yun Jian with a complicated expression. He frowned and looked up at Yun Jian, who was standing on the stairs on the third floor. Her expression was calm. He did not believe that Yun Jian would kill them, because if she did, Yun Jian's Kosha mercenaries would officially declare war on Country Z. More importantly, Gu Junjian could tell from Yun Jian's past actions that she cared a lot about Qin Yiru. Moreover, Xiao Yunju was Yun Jian's root. Since Yun Jian had left Xiao Yunju in Country Z, how could she possibly become enemies with them? Perhaps. Yun Jian flashed her pearly white teeth and smiled at Xiao Weiming, who was at the bottom of the stairs. This smile made Xiao Weiming feel even more weak. Once he recalled how he had looked down on Yun Jian in the past, Xiao Weiming felt uneasy. He felt that his head would be taken away by Yun Jian at any time. Yun Jian was slaying God. This also meant that if she wanted the heads of all of them present, it would only take a single word from her. Just as the atmosphere was gloomy, Yun Jian suddenly broke into a smile. She seemed to have turned into a little girl who loved to joke. I'm just kidding. As soon as she said that, Yun Jian's eyes flashed. Then, her gaze turned ferocious. At the same time, she looked at everyone present with hostility and changed her tone. But the condition is that none of you can say a word about what happened today. If you don't, we're still in the same army. If I hear any rumors, I'll kill all of you without anyone knowing. I know you believe that I can do it. Yun Jian smiled eerily after she said that. In everyone's eyes, Yun Jian looked like the Grim Reaper who was holding a scythe and seducing souls. Yun Jian, Gu Junjian, won't say a word. Gu Junjian was the first to shout. Me too. We won't say a word. In the end, even Xiao Weiming gave his word. If he did not give his word, Yun Jian would probably kill him first. Hence, Xiao Weiming was afraid. Yun Jian nodded when she got his word. The Inferno Ring has been successfully eliminated. All teams, pack up and prepare to return home. Gu Junjian shouted sternly. Yes. The 10 teams of Advanced Special Forces obeyed the order and ran out of the Inferno Ring's base. At this moment, Yun Jian and Ce had come down from the third floor. Seeing that Yun Jian and Ce were about to leave, Gu Junjian suddenly called out to Yun Jian. Yun Jian, wait. Yun Jian turned around and looked at Gu Junjian without saying a word. Seeing that Gu Junjian called out to Yun Jian while Ce stood beside Yun Jian, his eyes flickered. I have something to ask you. Gu Junjian frowned and stayed silent for 2 seconds. Since Gu Junjian did not say anything, Yun Jian did not say anything as well. After 2 seconds of silence, Gu Junjian spoke again. I have all your information on hand. You're Yiru's child and grew up in Xinjiang town. I've heard from Yiru that Yun Jian seemed to have changed into a different person since the Friday after your 3rd year of junior high school. You said you're slaying God today. How did you become slaying God and complete all the missions when you've never left Xinjiang town? I won't ask anything else. I just want to ask one question. You're the fake Yun Jian, aren't you? Where's the real Yun Jian? Where is she? Gu Junjian was a little scared. Qin Yiru loved her daughter so much. What would she do if she knew the truth? Would she be heartbroken? Heartbroken? Unbearable pain? Yin Jian grinned suddenly. Chapter 585. In the end, Yun Jian added, "You must tell the truth, or I won't tell you." Yun Jian crossed her arms and tilted her head to look at Gu Junjian. Her half-smile made Gu Junjian, who was suddenly diverted to him, blush. Gu Yunjian's reaction confirmed Yun Jian's suspicions. Ce stood beside Yun Jian, leaning close to Yun Jian. At that moment, he was also looking at Gu Junjian with a playful expression. This was his mother-in-law's happiness for the rest of her life. It was not child's play. Ce naturally knew about Qin Yiru's troubled life and the hardships Qin Yiru had gone through in the past. He could feel her care for Qin Yiru and her love for Qin Yiru. Ce was not blind. When he was in Xinjiang town, he had naturally seen the interaction between Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru. Two people's mutual interest was a kind of fate. Under Yun Jian's interrogative gaze, Gu Yunjian's face turned red. In the end, under Yun Jian and Ce's intense gazes, Gu Junjian said embarrassedly, "My relationship with Yiru." "Sigh, Yun Jian, you know that I'm a married man. Although I haven't spent much time with Yiru, I feel that we're getting along quite well, so it's meaningful, isn't it?" Yun Jian suddenly interrupted Gu Junjian. Yun Jian did not mind the fact that Gu Junjian was a married man. After all, her mother was a married woman too. If Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru were both married twice, then many conflicts would be nipped in the bud. Moreover, Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru had quite a tacit understanding. Yun Jian did not wish for Qin Yiru to spend the rest of her life alone. She also hoped that Qin Yiru could find a partner who would treat her well. Obviously, Gu Junjian was a responsible man. Although he was in the military and did not have much free time, he would never gamble, be a loan shark, and steal women like Yun Gang. Gu Junjian was speechless at Yun Jian's words, but he still nodded, his face red. "I agree," Yun Jian suddenly said when Gu Junjian was blushing. Then, as if she was marrying off her daughter, Yun Jian said earnestly, "Officer, although you're my officer now, but if you want to be with my mother, you must treat her well. Otherwise, I won't let you go." Hearing Yun Jian's words, Gu Junjian quickly raised his head and looked straight at Yun Jian. His attitude seemed sincere, but there was a hint of joy in it. "Yun Jian, don't worry." "Who am I, Gu Junjian? I swear to you, if I, Gu Junjian, treat Yiru badly, I'll be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." "All right, I understand." Yun Jian continued to smile. Gu Junjian was aware of his feelings for Qin Yiru. On the other hand, Qin Yiru actually did not know how she felt about Gu Junjian. After all, they had only known each other for a short time. However, what Qin Yiru did not know was that she had been sold by her own daughter. When Yun Jian changed the topic, Gu Junjian instantly forgot his initial purpose. Fortunately, Yun Jian did not want to go back on her words. She then began to explain the topic Gu Junjian was talking about earlier. "Regarding your question just now, I'm sorry, but I can only tell you one thing. I'm indeed not the real Yun Jian. I don't know where she went either. But you can rest assured, Officer Gu. If I have any bad intentions toward my mother, I'll die without a place to hide." Gu Junjian frowned at Yun Jian's promise, but he soon relaxed. Chapter 586. Yun Jian only swore because ever since her rebirth, Qin Yiru had become the most important person to her. She would never do anything to hurt Qin Yiru because in her heart, she had already treated Qin Yiru as her own mother. In her previous life, she was abducted at the age of 5 and lived till the age of 16. However, she had never experienced a mother's embrace. Legend had it that a mother's love was great and selfless. Unfortunately, she had never experienced it before. However, after her rebirth, she experienced a mother's love and Qin Yiru's care. Even if Qin Yiru did not directly tell her, "Baby, I love you," or anything like that. However, from the little things that happened in her daily life, she could tell that Qin Yiru cared for her. Although Yin Jian was a secret agent in her previous life, she had even killed her best friend in order to survive. However, she was not a heartless person. She treated Qin Yiru, Yin Yi, and Xiao Yunzhu equally. They were her most beloved family members and the only ones she had now. However, she did not expect that Ce would take her oath seriously. However, the truth was that what Ce said earlier had indeed warmed Yin Jian's heart. "Don't spout nonsense." Yin Jian retracted her hand from Ce's grasp with a blushing face. Yin Jian looked at Gu Junjian again with her slightly flushed cheeks and said, "Officer Gu, I'll have to trouble you to take care of me in the army in the future. I'm just Yin Jian and I hope that you'll treat me the same way you treat Team Monarch." Yin Jian did not want to be treated differently after Gu Junjian found out about her identity. She joined the army to improve her skills, not to be treated differently by Gu Junjian after they found out about her identity. Gu Yunjian's face stiffened when he saw Ce's actions. However, Gu Yunjian's mental fortitude was strong. Gu Junjian acted as if nothing had happened. He nodded to Yin Jian and said, "Well, don't worry about that. Even if you are the king of heaven, Gu Junjian will train you according to the rules of the army." Gu Junjian said this very seriously. Of course, Gu Junjian was never one for pleasantries. To Gu Junjian, even though Yin Jian was slaying God, since she had joined his army, she would have to undergo military training like the other members without exception. This was Gu Yunjian's principle. "Yes." Yin Jian nodded slightly. Her tender cheeks were as red as a big red apple. "Then, Yin Jian, I'll take my leave first." Sensing Ce's murderous gaze, Gu Junjian pursed his lips. He suddenly felt as if he was a third wheel and felt uncomfortable all of a sudden. Hence, Gu Junjian quickly said, "Okay." Yin Jian obviously did not know why Gu Junjian wanted to leave the base first. She nodded slightly and watched as Gu Junjian walked out of the north gate of the base. Outside the base, the people from an Hun group had retreated. The people from Inferno Ring had been completely annihilated. Only the remaining forces of Inferno Ring had not been completely annihilated. However, Adam and Emosan had already gone there to eliminate the remaining forces with Snake, Lizard and the rest. "Let's go out too." Yin Jian looked around. Other than the corpses, there was no one else around. She turned around and said to Ce. Just as she turned around, she felt a warm breath caressing her nostrils. In the blink of an eye, Ce was holding her in his arms. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.